beans, baby.
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live, and the phones, as always, are open here for you should you wish to join us and take control of the airwaves. You can do that. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it is Ian,
Matt, and Jim.
Special guest Jim is with us. Do you say your last name when you're on Punk Rock Libertarians, or
Bab?
Jim Bab. Jim Bab is here. You've been on as a guest, I think, here from Porkfest or something at some point in the past.
So many years.
And it has been a while, actually, since I've seen you in person, because I didn't get to go to the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year. I was stuck here.
That was awful.
Yeah.
We really missed you.
It really was. The biggest Porcupine Freedom Festival of all time, as I understand it. Very, very well attended. In fact, the event sold out. So I'm glad some people went and had a good time, though.
Well, I'm looking forward to your return.
Yeah, hopefully next year.
Hell yeah.
That would be the ideal situation. You are a co-host on Punk Rock Libertarians, which is a once-a-week podcast, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
It's one of the shows that is featured on LRN.FM, and whenever it's on, I always enjoy listening to you. So.
Well,
nice
I appreciate that. Our job is, if you listen, it is going to reduce your social credit score, but we have a lot of fun.
Love it. So, there's in the news today, there's a deadline for the New York City firemen and the New York City cops, and I guess every bureaucrat in New York City to get this vaccine, or else they're going to be possibly out of work. Now, I didn't see this coming as far as like one of the possible side effects of vaccine mandates would be a tremendous reduction in the workforce of government bureaucracy, but that does appear to be one of the side effects of vaccine mandates on government workforces. According to the story, go ahead.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm just curious how this is all going to pan out. Like, I didn't see them. These are people who went to work for the government. Now they're surprised the government's happening to them. But I want to see, how surprised are they?
Yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for the police, given that they, for years, have been arresting people for putting something into their bodies that the cops said that they weren't allowed to. Now, kind of a similar situation is happening, but sort of reversed. Now the cops are upset because the government wants to force them to put something into their bodies that they didn't want to be put. But still, the question is, it's your body. Shouldn't you be free to do as you choose? And to the extent that maybe some cops will have their minds opened to that question,
I doubt it.
Any cop that quits is a win. I don't care why.
I
Just
have little
quit.
faith.
Just go ahead and quit. Whether it's because they want to jab you, because your job is to loot people, because your wife doesn't like getting beaten. I don't care what your reason to quit is. Just quit.
I think you're probably right, though, Matt, as far as they're not going to get it, because
They're not gonna do it.
I actually did have a conversation with a local cop about this very issue. Bonnie and I were having dinner at the Jamaican place out on the street. Do you already know about this story?
You told me about that, but say it again.
So, yeah, we got listeners that probably don't. But Jason Short, who is one of the bad guys in Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. So if you've ever seen victimlesscrimespree.com, you ever watched that documentary, the guy that actually has Derek J arrested in the park for smoking weed, that same cop walks up. By the way, the same cop who was out in front of our house.
Yeah, he ran static for the FBI while they were beating down our doors.
Right, threatening Chris Wade and his partner for trying to record video of what was going on here and pushing them more than a block down the street with threats of arrest. That same guy comes up, acting all nicey nice, walks up to our table and just starts up a conversation about, there was protesters down at Central Square about the vaccine mandates and, COVID, etc. And he starts talking about how much he agrees with libertarians. And that he's always really agreed with libertarians, even though he's been arresting.
Well, he's learned a lot over the years of transporting libertarians to prison in his car. He gets like a 5-minute lecture each time.
Each one of them.
Yeah. So eventually he's like, yeah, these guys are right, and maybe I shouldn't be hauling them off to jail.
So he makes comments about, how a lot of cops are against the vaccine mandates and that, it's something we agree on. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. And then I made the point to him about, well, you guys for a long time have been arresting people for putting things into their body. Now you are on board with the idea of keeping something out. I made some comment about that, and he says, oh, well, let's not compare apples to oranges. So he just completely blew off the point about how this is the exact same thing of it's your body. You should be free to do what you want. Oh, no, that's apples and oranges.
Let's talk about consent, sir.
Right.
Yeah, if anybody tells you that libertarians don't live in reality, listen to what that guy just said.
Yeah.
He does not, by any stretch of the imagination, live in reality.
Well, his reality is his body is a shrine. It's a temple. He should be free to make choices.
Let's not compare apples to oranges.
But everybody else, well, I mean, he gets to tell you what to do with your... I mean, it's just ridiculous. I just thought I had a shred of hope in my mind that maybe Jason Short would make the connection.
Let's give him a chance, right?
No.
Like, just because he's been a looter and a kidnapper and and a wife beater, whatever his problem, a dog shooter or hobo taser, whatever his crimes are, okay? I think we should give him a chance to take off the badge, right? And to dedicate himself to righting the wrongs of his career so far.
Like Barry Cooper.
Yeah, you could, just step up and be like, you know what? I was a jerk.
Yeah.
I did the wrong thing. I thought it was the right thing. I now have thought about it, and it was wrong, and I'm going to try to make up for it.
He stood there and he tried to get brownie points. He was saying that, first he says he's always agreed with us, even when he had to arrest us for things.
Scumbag.
He had to do it because his chief said so.
The law's the law.
Yeah,
just following orders.
His chief told him to, but then he said, oh, but when he was the prosecutor, because here in New Hampshire, for whatever reason, they have the cops on police departments. One cop will be like the police prosecutor, and their job is really more of a glorified plea deal taker, but they sit in court all morning. They don't actually have like a beat. They don't go out and drive a car around and arrest people. They're in court, and they gotta they dress like they're for court. They don't have a uniform on. They're in business clothes. And he said every marijuana arrest that he was given as the police prosecutor, he instantly reduced it to a violation. So he was trying to explain
what
how
hero,
libertarian.
Such a nice guy. Yeah. When they said 12 lashes, I only gave 11. What?
So anyway, that was my summary of my conversation.
The
with
audacity of that guy to even walk up to your dinner table with your girlfriend sitting there with you after what he did to this house.
Yeah, and act like everything was totally fine. No big deal.
He obviously feels guilty, and he needs some kind of...
He feels no guilt. He's a sociopath. That guy is a nutcase.
He thinks you're going to smile at him and treat him like a normal human being?
And I do, because I want to have, the chance of changing somebody's mind. And I don't think that being nasty is a way to necessarily do that. So... And by the way, we got Christopher Cantwell calling in here.
God.
Long distance, so I'm accepting his call. So stand by, Chris. We're going to get you on here in just a sec.
Hang up on him.
No, I'm not going to hang up on Chris, because like with the police, I think that there's hope.
Is he calling from
people.
jail?
He's calling from jail, yeah.
Ian, endlessly compassionate.
Let's bring him on here. Chris Cantwell.
Hey,
hello, good evening.
To be with you.
Hey, you're on with Ian, Jim Babb, and Matt. We're in the studio here tonight. I heard some of your opening statement today in federal court. I presume that's why you were calling?
Yeah, I figured I'd call and brag about the best performance in the courtroom today happened to be mine, and I feel pretty proud of myself right about now. So I figured I'd strut my stuff on the airwaves.
Were you the only person who didn't have an attorney? Because I know there were a lot of attorneys that were speaking today.
No, Richard Spencer was also proceeding pro se, and he gave his opening statement today as well.
I see. All right. So you are in a civil case right now in federal court in the district of whatever Charlottesville, Virginia is. This all traces back to 2017, the so-called Unite the Right rally, at which there was physical conflict, fighting, They are accusing you of some sort of a conspiracy, and we'll get into it. You can explain what this case is about. You may need to call back, though. That way we can make sure we get you through the next segment. So stand by, Chris. So we'll continue here. Chris Cantwell, the so-called crying Nazi, on the line here with us. We'll find out what's going on in his case coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video or audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, the number, if you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And you can call from jail. as well. Some of the more interesting calls we've ever had have come from activists behind bars, and I wouldn't count Christopher Cantwell as a liberty activist anymore. In fact, he embraced the state years ago. Sadly, I've written extensively about his history over at freekeen.com. So if you're interested in getting like details on sort of the path of one Christopher Cantwell,
it's a tragic tale.
Then it really is, and it's longer than we have to explain here on the air tonight. But he just called in tonight because he's in the Charlottesville, Virginia area right now. And funny, is he on hold? Because it doesn't look like he's on hold. Can you press the hold button to put him back on hold? And then I should be able to put him on the air. There he goes. Chris.
There we are.
We got you. So you were in federal court today for a civil case. What is this case about? Conspiracy?
This case is about a bunch of hucksters trying to find a back door around the First Amendment is really what it is. But their claim is that the Unite the Right rally of August 2017 was one big criminal conspiracy, and everybody who had their name on anything associated with the upper echelons of this, whether you're a featured speaker or an organizer, says that you're responsible for everything from James Fields' car accident to some person has trouble sleeping at night. And that is a big crock of you-know-what, and we're there to face these people.
So they're saying they want damages because some people on the so-called alt-right got together and had a rally at which Antifa attended and fights broke out.
Yeah. So a bunch of communists attacked a permitted demonstration. Back in 2017, not everybody was intimately familiar with that, but we're all intimately familiar with it by now, right? There's a bunch of communists. They wanted to call themselves anti-fascists, which is why they want to, censor everybody and disarm the populace and stab you if you don't get a vaccine. They attacked our permitted demonstration, and then they said, "Oh my God, because violence happened at this white nationalist rally, it must be a racially motivated violent conspiracy." And so they assigned that silly label to what we've done, and they sued us under a law pursuant to the powers of the 13th Amendment, which you might ring a bell. It's the amendment that outlaws slavery in the Constitution. And so they're basically claiming that we violated a bunch of people's civil rights with racial motivation, which is profoundly untrue. They violated our civil rights. We had a permit, and they attacked us, and our permit was not honored, though we won a fight in a federal court to see it honored. And so they have accused us of precisely what they have done, and that is their modus operandi.
And so there are several defendants in this case, multiple plaintiffs, as I understand it. You were saying in your opening statement today, which I was able... what's really unusual about this case is you can actually call in and listen. And normally in federal court, it's completely closed. You have to physically be in federal court in order to see or hear anything. You cannot record. You cannot bring in a tape recorder. You cannot bring in a video recorder. You can't bring in a still camera. The only thing they'll let you bring into federal court as a viewer of a trial is a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper. And that is it. So to be able to actually call in and listen to the proceedings of federal court, there were over 300 people who were tuned into this today. And I was one of them. I heard, I think, the majority of your opening statement, and it sounded like you were doing your show in front of these people.
Yeah, I considered it a spoken word performance, and I take that kind of thing seriously. Especially once I found out that people were going to be able to listen, because it's like, normally the only record of these things is the transcript, and a transcript, as you know, is an audio entertainment professionally, and is not convey what a person says. It's a completely different form. Mm-hmm. And so I saw this as a tremendous opportunity, both because of the cause at hand and because I knew the world was listening. So I invested some emotional energy in this. And I think it came off well, especially, all my co-defendants are throwing each other under the bus. So let me just say this. I think some of the lawyers involved in this case are absolutely terrible. And I look like a star next to them. And something tells me I got the plaintiff shook up, too. I don't think that these people saw me coming.
Now, tell me about this. I don't know much about civil cases. Does it require a unanimous jury to find a person is not guilty? What's the responsible? Liable.
Yeah, you have to find somebody liable. There has to be a unanimous verdict.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's the way that works.
And when they return, obviously you don't really have an attorney that you can ask these questions, so you may not know the answer. But when a jury returns a verdict in a multiple defendant civil case, are they returning separate verdicts? Meaning they will find Christopher Cantwell not responsible, and they will find maybe somebody else or liable. Can they do that, or is it just everybody's liable or everybody's not liable?
They have to return a verdict of varying liabilities in a case like this. There's absolutely no question about it, because there's there are claims against James Fields is the most obvious example that just simply aren't applicable to us. Right?
I see.
We're all accused of conspiracy. We're not all accused of directly causing these injuries, which is a separate claim against James Fields.
Mm-hmm.
So they necessarily have to return a verdict, even if they give the plaintiffs everything they want. It has to be a mixed verdict, right? But they can say that, I am liable to one extent or not at all, and somebody is liable to a greater or lesser extent.
Okay.
And eventually going to start awarding monetary damages if the plaintiffs win their claims, at which point they're going to decide that, this guy owes $1 and this guy owes $10 million in punitive damages.
Got it.
Right? And so it is 100% certainly going to be a mixed verdict, unless it is 100%, not liable. But even at that, as a matter of fact, I don't even think that's not even possible at this point, because there are defaulted defendants and there are people who haven't technically defaulted, but who have abandoned the litigation. So, like Elliot Klein, aka Eli Mosley, for example, has not had a judgment of default entered against him, but he has ceased to comply with the discovery, and he has abandoned the litigation. So, like the court has entered in a decision that he will be deemed to have met the elements of the plaintiff's case. So if the jury says that everybody in that courtroom is not liable, they will still return a verdict of liable for Elliot Klein. Because
he didn't play the game. He didn't show up for court, didn't jump through the hoops.
Exactly. Because the court has deemed it established as a result of his noncompliance that he met all of the elements of the offense.
Wow.
Now, because of that, it's entirely possible. Let's say I blow the lid off this whole thing, and they realize, wow, these communists are really bad, and nothing should happen to these defendants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they feel bad for Elliot Klein as a result of something I do. Well, they will find him liable, and then they will just not award any damage.
I got you.
Right? Now,
Chris, do you want to keep going to talk about this case? Do you have time?
No, I got to go, but I'll talk to you real soon.
All right, thanks for the update, Chris. Chris Cantwell facing what could be, by the way, like a month-long civil trial. I mean, this jury is in this thing for what is likely going to be weeks. There are multiple plaintiffs and defendants, and there's a lot of supposed evidence that they're going to have to sift through, a lot of ugly Nazi stuff as well. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden has left Washington and is on his way to Rome for this weekend's G20 summit and then the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow. Before his departure, he insisted that Democrats in Congress have now agreed upon a framework that should allow them to pass two critical planks of his domestic legislative agenda, his infrastructure proposals and a broader spending measure.
After months of tough and thoughtful negotiations, I know we have a historic economic framework. It's a framework that will create millions of jobs, grow the economy, invest in our nation and our people.
But it is far from clear that the president's proposals enjoy sufficient support on Capitol Hill to secure their passage. And the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, ignored questions today about when she plans to put the president's infrastructure proposals to a vote. There was some bad economic news for the White House today. The U.S. economy grew at an annualized pace of just 2% in the third quarter, its slowest rate in over a year. From FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo reports.
Consumer spending accounts for around two-thirds of US economic growth and increased by just 1.6% in the third quarter. That's compared to 12% in Q2. Supply chain issues fueled by labour shortages played a major role in the sluggish economic growth, as did the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. Some analysts had expected the economy to grow at an annualised rate of 2.8% in Q3. But the 2% figure marks the slowest GDP increase since the second quarter of 2020. Supply chain issues are expected to continue into the holidays, but economists do predict the economy to strengthen in the coming months. William Denzelo, New York.
The British government is removing all remaining countries on its red travel list, but says it will preserve the system in case it needs to restrict travel from COVID-hit nations in future. Travel industry analyst Chelsea Dickinson.
So it's definitely good news for the travel industry at the moment. I think one, the fact that there's no countries on the red list obviously is very good, but I think almost like psychologically for travellers to know that there's no countries there, it feels like a good thing and that there's not, so much of that threat.
Social media giant Facebook, under a whistleblower's assault over claims that it knowingly contributed to an erosion of democracy worldwide, is changing its name. The company will now be known as Meta, ahead of its planned investment in creating a new 3D immersive environment known as the Metaverse. In a letter unveiling the new name, Mark Zuckerberg predicts a future in which holograms of ourselves will allow us to teleport instantly to locations all over the planet. I can hardly wait. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
He got on a mic at some presentation and said, I just want to come out and do something else. Hey, it is Free Talk Live here. There's a lot of fun going on in the studio. Glad to have you out there listening tonight. We were talking about the police. I want to get back into that discussion, but I also want to make sure you know about Bitcoin.com. That is where you can go to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. You can click Get Started at the top of the page. When you see the price of Bitcoin these days, over $60,000 per Bitcoin, it can feel like you're too late. But you might not be too late at all. In fact, we may still be on the early end of this stuff. Now, we can't make any promises. We don't know what the future holds for the price of these things. But over time, the price has tended to go upwards.
Yeah, and I got to say, who cares what the price is? I'm tired of people speculating. Let's not speculate. We got to use this as our money. We need to be passing this back and forth for goods and services between each other and, creating our own little networks and having a source of value that we can exchange.
Bitcoin Cash is more useful than Bitcoin as money, but they'll explain that to you over at Bitcoin.com when you click Get Started at the top of the page, and you can watch like a 3-minute-long introductory video that explains to you some of the basics about cryptocurrency, why this stuff is so important, why is it changing the face of the financial world, why is the government so afraid of it? These are some of the questions.
I think the price is important because that's how we can measure the demise of the petrodollar, right? Like that's how we're watching. Like how else are you going to see the dollar collapse against what metric?
Go to the beach in California and look out at the ocean.
Well, you're not wrong, Jim, that the price is important. It certainly is an aspect that's going to attract the majority of people into Bitcoin, is seeing that price go up. It definitely gets people's attention.
But the theory is, look, this is a fixed commodity, right? It's no more than 21 million, and we're all going to be chasing the same Bitcoin for the rest of eternity, right? Just do the math. This is where it goes. right?
Yeah.
So
the math is pretty clear. I mean, this thing is likely going to continue to become valuable. Again, we can't, know for sure what the future might hold.
There's
There might
no
be
bottom for the U.S. dollar.
That's true.
This has been established.
And it's not going to go up in value. The U.S. dollar is not going up in value.
No way.
Are they going to stop printing money?
Nope. They're going to keep printing it, and they're going to probably increase the rate at which they're printing it.
And just up until the point where it's just so crazy, they're like, all right, central bank digital currency.
They're working on that too.
It's obviously where they're going. And now when you hear this unrealized capital gain taxes.
Oh, yeah, they're talking about that now, yeah.
So now they're like, what people are dodging our inflation tax, and we don't like that. Right? Like people are putting their money into assets, and they're not giving us capital gains taxes. How can we somehow get their stuff?
Just tax their assets.
So now it's like, okay, let's print money. So my property went from $200,000 to $400,000 priced in U.S. dollars. Oh, okay. Now we're taxing you on that difference.
Yeah.
And wait, you don't have that? I guess you'll have to sell the property to BlackRock. Sorry.
Yeah, you want to talk about driving the billionaires out of the United States. These tax proposals are definitely going to be having some of these 700 billionaires or whatever packing their bags. Because why would they stay?
But it's also going to be shuffling all the money. Like again, it's the Great Reset. You will own nothing. Right? They don't want you to own a house. They don't want you to own land. They don't want you to own a farm. They don't want you to own a rental property.
They want you dependent.
Factory.
Dependent on them.
Yeah. So, so every time, so now they can just inflate. And then if they can get away with taxing unrealized capital gains,
That's insane.
You think they can never do that. They'd never do something that suicidal to the economy.
I think what this is they've thrown the switch because the Chinese want their money back. They want to collect on that debt. They've been buying treasuries for decades, and now they want to collect.
Could be.
This is how they're turning over the United States to the Chinese in the form of real estate.
Go get over to Bitcoin.com because now is the best time. If you haven't started learning about this stuff, you should do that. So click Get Started, Bitcoin.com, and get the latest news headlines anytime over at news.bitcoin.com. But to your point about the price, Jim, it is important, and that does bring people in. But hopefully those people will learn about Bitcoin, right? Instead of just looking at it as a thing that can go up in value, learn about what it is. Why does it matter that it's decentralized? Why does it matter that, no government or bank is in control of the cryptocurrency? Why is all that important? And I think that's something people should spend a little time on.
Yeah, come for the profit.
Right.
Stay to overthrow central banking.
Stay for the principle. I love it. So people that don't have principles include the police of the United States, and specifically in this story we're going to talk about is New York City cops and the fire department and basically every other bureaucrat in the city. Here's a story from the New York Post. The Fire Department of New York is preparing to close as many as 20% of all Big Apple fire companies and take an equal portion of its ambulances off the streets ahead of the impending deadline for all city workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. On Wednesday, Fire Department of New York said just 65% of its firefighters, fire officers, and EMS workers had been vaccinated despite the mayor's order that all city workers receive at least one dose or face suspension without pay starting Monday. Quote, the department must manage the unfortunate fact that a portion of our workforce has refused to comply with a vaccine mandate for all city employees, said the fire commissioner in a statement. He said further, quote, we will use all means at our disposal, including mandatory overtime, mutual aid from other EMS providers, and significant changes to the schedules of our members. We will ensure the continuity of operations and safety of blah, blah, blah. And then the commissioner didn't assess the likely result of potential moves, but one firefighter predicted that people will die in the city. Well, that's always true. Last week, de Blasio announced a 5 p.m. Friday deadline, but that's only to receive $500 in incentive pay for taking the shot, which gives hesitant workers one last weekend of wiggle room to reconsider before being taken off of the payroll. The widespread resistance by firefighters is going to take about 40% of us out and could lead to response times of 7 minutes or more, according to another firefighter. Regarding New York Police Department, 75% of New York police has been vaccinated, but that number only includes about 63% of street cops. So a good chunk of the crew, the New York Police Department that's vaccinated are the office workers. The street cops, only 63% of them have received the vaccine. So there are about 6,000 officers that remain still unvaccinated. One Manhattan cop said the expected results of benching patrol officers will result in more crime. He says. Which I don't buy unless it's actually the cops themselves out doing the crime, which I wouldn't put past them.
Isn't it always the case when they threaten, like, well, there's not going to be any cops, you'll be sorry, and everyone's like, woohoo!
Yeah, and then something happens and you find out it was actually an undercover cop that broke a storefront window or did whatever. So I think that you're going to find out that there is actually probably not a real increase in crime without, if the police department drops by 30%, you're not going to have a 30% increase.
Well, except you've got, I don't know, what are those 30% of cops going to do now? Now they're out on the street and they're like, well, what do? We kick in doors, we shake down businesses, like we harass black people.
They have a specific skill set.
Like just because they're not, public sector, they might still want to do the same job. But let's give them, forget about those stupid cops, right? Get fired, whatever. Maybe some will find honest work. The firemen and the ambulance drivers, they have an important role to play in our society. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say immediately, guys, just get together, form your own firehouse, your own emergency response service. Give me the number, okay? I'll hire you, okay? We're going to need you guys, right? Just because they don't want to work with you anymore, it doesn't mean we don't need you. Just reassemble on different teams.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that idea. It's just New York City is going to be the hardest place to do something like that. I mean, it's one thing to be like an agorist fire department in Keene, New Hampshire or something like, in a small town environment, but what they're going to do. They're going to outlaw competition. If you get your own fire truck and start trying to drive around the streets of New York City,
they'll kill you.
You're going to get pulled over and right.
Yeah, just get out. Bail out. Just get away from those places.
Yeah, that's a better plan. The number here is 603-283-6160, but sounds like the deadline for all of this, for all these city workers in New York City, is tomorrow night. And then they will be essentially not paid. If they show up to work, they're not going to get paid starting Monday. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. More coming up. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here if you want. The number is 603-283-6160. The situation brewing in New York City is there's about 67% of the cops, the on-duty officers that are in the streets kind of cops, 63%. And then about 65% of firefighters and EMS workers are vaccinated. The rest of them have not been, and according to the mandate by Mayor Bill de Blasio, if they do not get at least one dose by Monday, they will be suspended without pay, which for a bureaucrat to be suspended without pay is like almost unheard of. Usually, they have to murder somebody.
Yeah, they could be like raping children and still like, we're going to give you a pass until all the facts are out 5 years from now.
Yeah, worst case, it's like they'll suspend them with pay, and then they can just sit at home and collect a paycheck. But in this case...
Didn't Chicago go through this too? And
you mean with the vaccination thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
there was a showdown with the police and their crazy mayor up there.
Yeah, what's going on with that? Have you heard anything about Chicago? Because we did talk about that in advance, but I haven't heard any updates on it.
I think they were having a similar kind of conflict. I don't know how it played out, but you know what? Let these guys battle each other. Let them fight amongst themselves.
Yeah, because the more they're fighting amongst themselves, the less they can be paying attention to the rest of us, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
it could give them a lot of stress, and they might just take it out harder on everybody.
Mostly their wives.
Their wives, yeah. Thank you, cop wives, for taking the beating for us.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to this story, though. So they did sue, because the police unions, the firemen's unions, they are against the vaccination mandates, and they did go to court. And on Wednesday, Staten Island Supreme Court Justice Lizette Colon turned down a request by the Police Benevolent Association, their largest union in New York, to issue a temporary restraining order against the vaccine mandate. So the judges are saying, nope, you're going to have to get the vaccine or lose your job or be suspended.
But the unions are standing against the vaccine mandate.
Correct. The PBA, Police Benevolent Association, said they will be appealing the ruling as of yesterday. The Uniformed Firefighters Association is also planning an anti-mandate protest rally outside of the mayor's official Manhattan residence as of Thursday morning. And so,
good.
Yeah.
Good. I like the way that the alliances are breaking up. I mean, now you've got the left is out like working for Pfizer against like government unions.
That's how it's happening. It's all getting so
weird.
crazy.
It's so weird.
Right. And the anti-fascists are now also working for Pfizer because they support vaccine mandates and things like that.
Right. Like everyone was in the street for privacy and now they're like demanding vaccine passports and biosurveillance state. I mean,
as of Wednesday, the New York Police Department was still developing contingency plans, with one saying cops and detectives would have to be shifted around and assigned to radio cars just to answer 911 calls. Quote, a possible scenario for Sunday night is unvaccinated cops at the Halloween detail will turn into pumpkins at midnight and have to walk away from their assignments, another source said. But the the fire department has ordered its members to work straight tours as scheduled beginning at 9 a.m. Saturday, meaning firefighters can no longer exchange shifts among themselves, and they will also be scheduled to work overtime to guarantee staffing. One firefighter said, they're forcing us to work overtime. That means we'll lose another 10% who get injured or sick from the 80-hour work weeks. So, yeah, these guys are getting angry at each other. They're saying, well, because you guys are quitting your job, now they're going to come down on us harder, the ones that are vaccinated and the ones that are staying.
We complied. Well, how many more shots are these guys going to need? One shot's not enough.
Yeah, this is going to be the top of the slope for them. They're just going to have to keep getting...
Like every month, every 2 months? Like, is it like, oh, well, you want a government job? Roll up your sleeve.
Time for your booster.
Now, of course, they're going to be hiring, right? Like, as soon as these people lose their jobs, then there's going to be all kinds of hiring happening, and so they're not going to stay down on their roles forever.
Have they offered to bring in the National Guard to fill these roles that are also going to be unloading ships in California and staffing hospitals in New York and
everything? Yeah, good question. It wouldn't surprise me. It doesn't mention it in this story, but fire department vacations set to start Monday or later have been canceled, and anyone who wants to take their accrued comp time has to file for retirement to avoid being suspended, according to sources. Fire department members who are suspended for more than 30 days will be forced to resign. So
maybe this is a good time to review the concept of government fire departments. Like maybe that's not really
a crappy idea.
Yeah, maybe there's a vulnerability because can you trust the government? No. Do you need to trust firemen? Yes. So, maybe this could, I don't know how. I mean, it's Manhattan. It's crazy. Right. But if it at least encourages people to say, like, maybe we need to do some separations here, because so many of the problems we've seen over the past 2 years, shutting down restaurants, crushing businesses, and they always have these licenses. They always have like, oh, we'll take away your food license. We'll take away your booze license. Like, you set yourself up for this vulnerability years ago.
By asking permission in the first place.
When we all, when these people agreed, well, we're going to have alcohol licenses. We're going to have booze licenses. We're going to have a government fire department. We're going to have government-funded health care. We're going to do the government-funded research. We're going to do government this. We're going to, make it fair. It's got to be free. It's got to be great. Like, you set yourself up for this failure, and now it's failing, and it's going to hurt. There's going to be fires. People are going to die, and they're going to say, like, well, the mistake they made was years and years ago.
They're going to blame the unvaccinated, is what they're going to do. They're going to say, oh, well, if it weren't for those darned unvaccinated firemen, then we would have had full coverage, and we would have been able to save your house from burning down, or your garage, or whatever it was. And they're going to blame all the unvaccinated, and they're just going to blow it off. But I think you touched on something that was, I think, before the show, Jim. This is the time when people need to start making moves, when they need to look at where they're living and determine whether or not this is a situation in which they want to continue living, or do they want to make a choice and actually relocate themselves to be around people that share their values. Because that's more important now than it's ever been. It's always been a good idea. Now it may be a critical
Maybe a
idea.
matter of life and death.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with new internal passports, electronic passports, vaccine passports, internet identification, surveillance, biosurveillance. It's just getting so creepy that if we don't, it's going to be our own personal networks that we're going to rely upon. And, I'm okay with that. Like, there's going to be wild people and there's going to be domesticated people. And we're all going to kind of choose our path now. It's like, do you want to be on the plantation? Do you want to be on the farm? Or do you want to be out in the jungle? It's a little risky out there, but
yeah, and the cities are going to be more full of those domesticated people. I mean, that's just the reality of it. You spend a lot of time in the Philly area, Jim. I mean, what's it like out there? I mean, are people wearing masks all over the place still, or is it lessened to a large extent?
It's much less than it used to be,
That's
but
good.
there's still pockets of hysteria.
Mm-hmm.
And they act like in certain places, like you go to a bar, you don't need a mask. You go to a restaurant, you don't need a mask. Oh, you go to the dentist. Oh, you better have a mask to walk back to the chair.
So Philly hasn't done a vaccine mandate yet, then?
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't watch a lot of TV. And
you'd have heard about it because there'd be signs going up everywhere. Like in New York, there's signs going up.
If there's some tyrannical thing that's popular, Philly's going to try to double it. Okay, like when mask mandates went out, they literally told waiters in Philly, you're doing 2 masks. They did you need a mask and a face shield, and you're social distancing, and you're going to allow 10% volume, and it has to be on the sidewalk with the homeless people. And I mean, they don't. There's no rationality to what they do. So I'm guessing whatever's coming, Philly's going to be susceptible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, because I know there's Project Veritas just released a video that was undercover cameras inside the governor's re-election campaign. So they had one of their people wear an undercover device, acting as though they were a supporter of the governor being reelected.
What governor?
I don't know what his name is, Murphy or something, in New Jersey.
In New Jersey?
Yeah, Jersey. And so they're going in, having conversations with the campaign staff, and one of the main campaign ladies admits on video that Murphy is holding off on a statewide vaccine mandate until he gets reelected. So that's his plan. He intends to mandate vaccines, just like New York City, just like Los Angeles, San Francisco, where you have to have a vaccine passport to go into the gym, to go out to eat, to go to any kind of entertainment venue, any kind of comedy club or theater. And, of course, it's going to expand from there, right? But that's where they're going to start this thing. He wants to do a statewide mandate, but he's just holding off until he can get reelected.
I mean, do you think this is just about selling pharmaceutical products, or do you think it's all about the digital passport to verify you're vaccinated?
It's all of the above.
And the control grid that's going to come along with that, and the way that this is bringing it in.
Yeah, it's all of the above. It's all about obedience. Like somebody was asking a question on Twitter the other day about, well, why are they still taxing people when they can just print the money out? It's because it's about obedience as well. Yeah, they can print all the money they want to, so they don't even need the income tax, but they love having people fill out their forms and bow down to them.
And every deduction is a special favor to a group.
There's more coming up here in moments. Hour number 2 is on the way. The number is 603-283-6160. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden has left Washington and is on his way to Rome for this weekend's G20 summit and then the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow. Before his departure, he insisted that Democrats in Congress have now agreed upon a framework that should allow them to pass 2 critical planks of his domestic legislative agenda, his infrastructure proposals and a broader spending measure.
After months of tough and thoughtful negotiations, I know we have a historic economic framework. It's a framework that will create millions of jobs, grow the economy, invest in our nation and our people.
But it is far from clear that the president's proposals enjoy sufficient support on Capitol Hill to secure their passage. And the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, ignored questions today about when she plans to put the president's infrastructure proposals to a vote. There was some bad economic news for the White House today. The U.S. economy grew at an annualized pace of just 2% in the third quarter, its slowest rate in over a year. From FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo reports.
Consumer spending accounts for around 2/3 of US economic growth and increased by just 1.6% in the third quarter. That's compared to 12% in Q2. Supply chain issues fueled by labour shortages played a major role in the sluggish economic growth, as did the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. Some analysts had expected the economy to grow at an annualised rate of 2.8% in Q3. But the 2% figure marks the slowest GDP increase since the second quarter of 2020. Supply chain issues are expected to continue into the holidays, but economists do predict the economy to strengthen in the coming months. William Denzelo, New York.
The British government is removing all remaining countries on its red travel list, but says it will preserve the system in case it needs to restrict travel from COVID-hit nations in future. Travel industry analyst Chelsea Dickinson.
So it's definitely good news for the travel industry at the moment. I think, one, the fact that there's no countries on the red list obviously is very good, but I think almost like psychologically for travellers to know that there's no countries there, it feels like a good thing and that there's not, so much of that threat.
Social media giant Facebook, under a whistleblower's assault over claims that it knowingly contributed to an erosion of democracy worldwide, is changing its name. The company will now be known as Meta, ahead of its planned investment in creating a new 3D immersive environment known as the Metaverse. In a letter unveiling the new name, Mark Zuckerberg predicts a future in which holograms of ourselves will allow us to teleport instantly to locations all over the planet. I can hardly wait. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today looking at the extraordinary life of one of the survivors of the US nuclear attack on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. Swano Tsuboi died on Wednesday at the age of 96. On August the 6th, 1945, he was a student heading to class when the US Air Force crew aboard the Enola Gay dropped the atom bomb that devastated the city. FSN's Phoebe Amoroso in our Tokyo bureau tells us more about him.
Tsuboi was just a 20-year-old student when the bomb hit. He was about 1.2 kilometers from ground zero and experienced severe burns. In fact, he said back in a 2016 interview that he tried to run away naked for about 3 hours until he could no longer walk. He went on to work as a junior high school teacher after the war, and then he devoted the rest of his life to campaigning for nuclear disarmament. He traveled to various countries, the US, India, Pakistan, France, all to share his experiences of the bombing.
He also famously met then US President Barack Obama when the American leader made an historic visit to Hiroshima in 2016. Mr. Tsuboi lost part of an ear as a result of the nuclear strike and also contracted a variety of cancers in later life. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida led the national tributes when news of his death was announced. The main news again. President Biden says Democrats in Congress have agreed upon a framework that should allow them to pass 2 critical planks of his domestic agenda. But there's no word on a timetable for any votes. The US economy grew at an annualized pace of just 2% in the third quarter, and social media giant Facebook is changing its name. It will now be known as Meta. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
It was on this day in 1982 that the first roller skating while carrying a boombox member of Congress was elected when James Sugar Boots Franklin narrowly won New York's 8th congressional seat. Franklin's victory was a watershed moment at the time, signaling that America's burgeoning population of boombox-carrying roller skaters had finally gained mainstream acceptance.
We prove Congress isn't just for suits and crew cuts. Say hello to the slickest legislator on 8 wheels, James Sugar Boots Franklin.
Franklin was an unlikely pioneer, a street-smart skater who admitted to being more concerned with impressing honeys with his silky smooth moves than with politics. Franklin began organizing boombox-carrying roller skaters, advocating for basic rights like roller skate-accessible ramps in government buildings and protected street lanes where they could lay down cones for some sweet slaloming.
Just because we like to roll it out and have a smooth, fluid style that cannot be denied doesn't mean we aren't Americans. Yeah, that's right.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live, kicking off the second hour of the program. Open phones. Should you wish to join us, you can. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's me, Ian,
Matt, and Jim.
All right, we're going to continue with your phone calls and thoughts. Then coming up, there's actually been a poll done that is, I think it indicates potential for good news regarding the idea of New Hampshire independence. Now, it wasn't specifically a question about declaring independence or seceding from the United States, but I think it's a harbinger of good things to come, and we can tell you more about that coming up here in moments. But first, to your phone calls and thoughts. We go to Doc. He's listening in Georgia and listening online. And by the way, the freetalklive.com website, I had to blow up the old site a few weeks ago, replaced it with a new site. And one of the things that wasn't quite working correctly was the player there. So if you tried our live player on the new site at freetalklive.com/live and it wasn't working for you, it should be working for you now. So feel free to give that another shot, just an FYI. But Doc, you're on Free Talk Live. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, sir.
What's on your mind tonight?
I was trying to figure out what you were talking about a second ago. You were saying something about, oh, Jesus, Lord Mary Joseph. I've been drinking way too much.
Yeah, it's generally a good plan to write down notes. If you're ever going to call talk radio.
I mean, honestly, no. I mean, I'll tell you right now. I mean, I drink all the time.
Okay.
I don't think that I'm drunk. I'm very articulate. I don't slur my words.
Yeah, you're not slurring too much. No, I'm not noticing. I wouldn't have known if you hadn't said something.
And I have a very even keel of a mindset.
Okay. But you spaced it, okay? So we were talking about something. I'll remind you. Let me see if I can freshen you up here. We were talking about the New York police and the fire department. About roughly a third to 40% of their bureaucracy may be losing their jobs because they're not going to get the vaccine. And I, for one, am in favor of this.
Well, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the police, but the police that will stand up for the idea of freedom of choice and non-mandated, bureaucracy. I applaud them. Like I said, I'm not a big fan.
I kind of begrudgingly applaud them, cautiously applaud them.
Exactly. Beautiful word, begrudgingly. Beautiful word.
Because I don't buy that they've actually stood up for anything besides their own convenience.
Now they could.
Yeah,
they could quit, and they could take the keys to the evidence locker.
They've never stood up for what they're doing right now for the U.S. civilian.
Correct.
And I mean, if you take an oath of office, you are no longer a civilian. And the fact that if you are a civilian and you are we the people of these United States, not the United States, which is the corporation that the Washington, D.C. of District of Criminals decided that they wanted to name themselves, in a third executive order from, Ulysses S. Grant, in 1871, when he defined what Washington, D.C. was by its like 10 by 10 square miles.
Yeah, you're kind of getting into some esoteric territory there, and I wish that any of that stuff mattered, but unfortunately it just doesn't. I mean, I can tell you, if you get in front of a man in a robe with a bunch of men with guns standing around them...
Why do they wear the black robe?
Because it's a religion. It's a church.
No, it's a matter of life and death.
What does that mean?
Because the specific idea of wearing a black robe is like, you're being judged from a point of a matter of life and death.
Not in civil court.
Are you telling me a civil court judge doesn't wear a black robe?
I'm pretty sure they do.
The minister at the court, in the church I grew up in, wore a black robe.
But the point is about them wearing a black robe is the fact that it's a matter of life and death.
Yeah, not in civil court in a lot of cases. It's just a matter of money.
Also could be goth.
Well, how many men got screwed over by their old women? Because
I'm not saying you're not going to get screwed over in civil court. You're going to get screwed over. Good odds are good.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's not
killed themselves because they couldn't figure out how to get out of it.
Hey, man, I get what you're saying, but it's a religion. Okay, all you have to do is look at the way court acts.
Yes, I do believe that the Department of Justice under Article 3 has become a religion.
Why just the Department of Justice?
Well, I'm sorry, not the Department of Justice. Department of Justice under the executive branch. Article 3 is what describes, what the Supreme Court is and how the rule of the land goes. But I do believe that Article 3 has been turned into religion, and there is no separation of church and state at this point.
I don't know if there ever was. I think the state has always been a religion.
Yeah, people believe that this is necessary. We believe that it works, and we believe that it's benevolent. We believe that it hands down punishment for evil.
What the fuck is normal, man?
We can't let you say that on the radio. I'm so sorry about that. The number here is 603-283-6160. To answer his question, he said, what is normal? Except he said a word you can't say on the radio in there. And I don't know what that really means, but I can tell you that the state is abnormal. The state is violence. The state is the use of force and the threat of aggression against neighbors, against peaceful people. And it is justified by a religious belief set that is becoming even more dangerous, especially now with the whole COVID thing. Now they've got more like religious totems and more religious I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, where the religious rites, these sort of things that they go through to prove that their religious beliefs are the right ones, and they must jump through all these hoops,
burn
and
some witches from time to time, whatever they have to do.
It's very creepy, and a courtroom is a creepy place. You get this guy in a robe. He's got his acolytes, which they don't wear robes. The acolytes don't wear robes, but they have a certain uniform. And they do what the man in the robe says without question.
Well, and he sits up a couple feet higher than everyone else.
Yep, that's right. And literally the jury and the people that are observing the courts, but specifically the people that observe the court, are there in pews. They're sitting in pews. Mm-hmm. In almost every courtroom I've ever been in, they're literally in pews.
And somebody explains to them what the Word of God is.
That's right.
Somebody tells them, and the judge will say things like, I tell you what the law is.
And the judge will also say things like, I am the court, instead of I'm a man, or I am Joe Smo, or whatever his name is. He's the court. And the prosecutor believes that they are the state. They will respond as the state. They're not the individual.
God's representatives here on earth.
Yeah. The state is speaking through them. This thing that is not real is a fantasy that these people all have a collective delusion that they actually believe in. And the people in the audience, they believe it too. Not as great to a greater extent. They only believe it because they know they're going to be punished by the church if they don't do what they're told. So that's why when the acolyte says, "All rise," and the man in the robe comes into the room, and then the people watching, they're going through a religious ritual. That's the word I was looking for, a ritual. They're going through a ritual. They all rise for the man in the robe, and then they can have a seat. And if they speak out of turn, the man in the robe will punish them and send them to, the gulag or whatever.
Yeah, and imagine being a juror in that environment. You've probably never been in a courtroom in your whole life.
Yeah, good chance.
It's very confusing. Maybe you've seen some shows on TV with a courtroom drama, right? That's your experience level. You're going in there, you don't know what you're doing.
Under threat, by the way.
You don't know how long you're going to be in there. You don't know how you're going to get back to your life outside.
Right.
You don't know. So first thing you do is like, I don't know what's going on. They look around. Who's the authority figure? Oh, that must be the guy I answer to up there.
Mm-hmm.
He's giving me instructions. He's telling me what to do. He's telling me when to say guilty. He's saying, well, if you find this and this and this and I mean, we've heard him say things like, now don't go home and look up the law yourself. I tell you what the law is.
Right.
You don't read the Bible. That's what the priests are for.
That's a good one. I'd not heard that connection made before, Jim. That's fantastic. It's so true. Also, the other thing, you got to be quiet in church, right? You know, unless it's one of those churches where they're like jumping through they're dancing and playing tambourines. Most churches aren't like that, right? You got to be quiet. And that's true in government church as well. Everybody's always quiet. Nobody ever says anything above a whisper.
You don't want to interrupt the ceremony.
Even if there's no ceremony going on, even if the man in the robe hasn't come in yet, everybody's always
It's a sacred space.
There's more coming up here, 603-283-6160. You can join us and take control of the airwaves. Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want, but just please don't say the F word, otherwise we have to press the dump button, and that just makes me feel so bad. By the way, Doc, who was on the line, did send a message over YouTube chat and apologized for what he said. So, we don't take it personal. You can call back. You can call back any night of the week.
It's 2021. How can you not cuss? I mean,
I know.
It's very difficult.
Well, somebody pointed this out the other day. It's ironic that the FCC actually has less or fewer content restrictions than YouTube does, right? Like the FCC just says you can't say the F word and the C word and the S word, and they don't even get specific about the words you can't say. There's some words you can't say and you shouldn't say them, but there really aren't any topics that are forbidden by
we
the
can
FCC.
say vaccine,
right? Yeah, or you can say don't get a vaccine, and that's technically
ivermectin.
But YouTube will kick you off.
Yeah, I got another 30-day ban today on Facebook. I just came off a 30-day ban, and they banned both my accounts this time.
Wow.
Yeah, just to be safe.
Oh, Meta. Did you hear this?
Meta, is that the new name?
Facebook has rebranded now. The company that owns Facebook is now no longer Facebook. It's now Meta.
Yeah, they own Instagram and a bunch of other stuff. That's their holding company. But no, I got banned because I posted a meme I saw. Somebody shared this meme to me of it's a car air freshener of Jeffrey Epstein, and it says, "This air freshener didn't hang itself," and it's dangling. It's dangling from the rearview mirror in this car.
Wrong think.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to post that or something, I guess. So they banned me for another 30 days, and they wouldn't let me repeal it. It says if you'd like to appeal this, then type in this box why we should and hit send, and I did, and it wouldn't go.
Wouldn't even send.
Wait, so Facebook is finally getting to the point where they need to put a squash on Epstein memes? They're
Apparently.
a little late to this. I mean, really?
Like literally, my appeal to them was Facebook is unusable. And it wouldn't let me send Facebook is unusable.
Wow. Well, I would highly recommend you get over to social.freetalklive.com if you're not yet over there. That is a social media website that we're in charge of. It is self-hosted. We're running it on our server. It is not controlled by Facebook. It's not controlled by Twitter. Big tech is not in command. And you can express yourself there. You get a lot more freedom to express yourself over at social.freetalklive.com. The only people who've been banned from that site are spammers, people that come in with the express purpose of spamming links to whatever porn site or hacking site or who knows what they're trying to promote, but that's not the point of the thing. But whatever your opinions are, they're welcome over at social.freetalklive.com. Let's bring Dave Ridley on the line from RidleyReport.com.
Hey, Ridley.
You're on with Ian, Matt, and Jim.
Hey, guys. Well, it's like George Orwell said, if any thought is forbidden, then all thoughts can become forbidden because they could lead to the forbidden thought.
Just a good point.
But I was actually calling to try and get a clarification from you guys, and I think the public should know about this too, so it's probably best to discuss it in public. But I was listening to your show about your experience in court where Frank Staples is his name, the Footloose. Frank Staples is his real name, right?
Yeah, Footloose, one of the I would say most active people in New Hampshire as far as freedom from vaccines and mandates and things like that, mask mandates. He's one of the leaders in that area.
So this incident where he was arrested, I think I listened to all your talk about it, and I never got a clear sense of. There were other reports I got from other people who were there that you guys had been harassed for trying to film. Can you tell me more about that, or what happened or didn't happen?
Who was harassed for trying to film? Sorry.
So I heard that you were harassed by the bailiffs for trying to film in the court.
Okay. So what you're referring to is, I think it was early last week or maybe like a week and a half ago. Bill Domenico, who's one of the great activists up here in New Hampshire, the Free State Project activist guys, and another guy, Will Kelly, were both on trial, also a great activist. Both were on trial for having a candlelight vigil outside of the governor's house in late December of 2020. And they actually never had a chance to get the candles out because the cops swarmed them as soon as they arrived and threatened them. And there were actually 9 people that were ticketed at this particular event, and 1 was arrested, all for completely peaceful acts. So this is the trial I was at. I was at the first of the 9 people. It was the first 2 trials. They were combined together, so these 2 guys had the same trial. And the bailiff, one of the armed men in the court, the acolyte of the robed lady, came up and demanded that I show my permission slip to be able to record. That I need to show my credentials to prove that I am the media, basically. Now, in the case of Free Keene, which is the website that I run, freekeene.com, we actually are registered media with the Supreme Court. And the reason why I went through that process most of a decade ago at this point, I think it was probably 2012 or 2013 when I first jumped through those hoops, was because I just didn't want to have to file paperwork every single time I went into a courtroom, because that's what they were demanding. So, essentially they try to take your rights away from you, right, and make them and convert them into privileges. So if it's a right to record video, if it's a right to be the media, and I know, Jim, you've had a lot of experience in courtrooms as well, but if it's a right, you shouldn't have to ask for permission. As soon as you have to ask for permission, you've converted a right into a privilege. But they've got a bunch of guns, and if you don't do what they say, then they put you in a cage. So I went ahead. Go ahead.
I'm still vague on what exactly happened. Were they trying to stop you from? Were they trying to stand in front of you, or stop
they
you from
certainly
filming
would
in the
have
lot-
stopped me if they could have. So what happened was the men with guns. One of them came up and said, "We need to see your credentials." And I said, "No, you don't. I'm with Free Keene, and you can go check your list," because usually that's all that it takes. Usually all I have to do is say Free Keene, and then they know, because the list in New Hampshire of like approved media is literally like 10 items long. So anybody that's looked at the list would remember likely Free Keene, and most of the time they just say, "Oh yeah, that's fine," and then they leave you alone. But in this case, the guy insisted on seeing some sort of credential to prove that I was indeed associated with freekeene.com. And I said, "Well, no, you don't. I'm on the list. That's all you need to know." And then he said, "Well, I'm going to talk to the judge." I said, "Well, you do what you got to do." And so then he did talk to the judge, and then the robed lady stopped the hearing or whatever at some point, or before starting the hearing, addressed me directly and demanded that I show proof that I was from Free Keene. So I carry around a copy of the original paperwork that I filed with the Supreme Court. I usually just use it to white balance my camera, but in this case, it was the first time, and I told the judges, I said, "This is the only time I can recall ever having to pull this out to show to anybody," but then I handed it to the man with a gun, and then he left me alone.
Were there any attempts at filming in the lobby, or is this just a fight over whether or not you could film in the court itself?
This was in the actual courtroom.
So did anything happen in the lobby in terms of, like, I understand you saw someone arrested. Did you get any video of that?
Unfortunately, no. By the time I heard Footloose was being arrested in the lobby, I did not remove my camera to go out there. I did go out to observe it myself, and by that time they were already shoving him into the elevator. If you'll hang on, Ridley, I've got something some interesting news I want to get your comment on. Do you have time?
Sure.
All right, more coming up here in moments. Yeah, if you bring a camera out into the lobby of the courthouses, they really don't like that. And I'm on bail conditions, so I can't push those limits, unfortunately, as much as I want to. More coming up here in moments. It's Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. if you'd like to see
real prosperity,
start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden has left Washington and is on his way to Rome for this weekend's G20 summit and then the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow. Before his departure, he insisted that Democrats in Congress have now agreed upon a framework that should allow them to pass two critical planks of his domestic legislative agenda, his infrastructure proposals and a broader spending measure.
After months of tough and thoughtful negotiations, I know we have a historic economic framework. It's a framework that will create millions of jobs, grow the economy, invest in our nation and our people.
But it is far from clear that the president's proposals enjoy sufficient support on Capitol Hill to secure their passage. And the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, ignored questions today about when she plans to put the president's infrastructure proposals to a vote. There was some bad economic news for the White House today. The U.S. economy grew at an annualized pace of just 2% in the third quarter, its slowest rate in over a year. From FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo reports.
Consumer spending accounts for around two-thirds of US economic growth and increased by just 1.6% in the third quarter. That's compared to 12% in Q2. Supply chain issues fueled by labour shortages played a major role in the sluggish economic growth, as did the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. Some analysts had expected the economy to grow at an annualised rate of 2.8% in Q3. But the 2% figure marks the slowest GDP increase since the second quarter of 2020. Supply chain issues are expected to continue into the holidays, but economists do predict the economy to strengthen in the coming months. William Denzelo, New York.
The British government is removing all remaining countries on its red travel list, but says it will preserve the system in case it needs to restrict travel from COVID-hit nations in future. Travel industry analyst Chelsea Dickinson.
So it's definitely good news for the travel industry at the moment. I think, one, the fact that there's no countries on the red list obviously is very good, but I think almost like psychologically for travellers to know that there's no countries there, it feels like a good thing and that there's not, so much of that threat.
Social media giant Facebook, under a whistleblower's assault over claims that it knowingly contributed to an erosion of democracy worldwide, is changing its name. The company will now be known as Meta, ahead of its planned investment in creating a new 3D immersive environment known as the Metaverse. In a letter unveiling the new name, Mark Zuckerberg predicts a future in which holograms of ourselves will allow us to teleport instantly to locations all over the planet. I can hardly wait. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us right here. Number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight in studio, it's Ian,
Matt, and Jim.
And we're going to continue with your phone calls and thoughts. And, of course, you can bring up absolutely anything that happens to be on your mind. I'm really glad Dave Ridley called in here. I didn't ask him to, but he's a fairly regular caller, checking in from RidleyReport.com, one of the greatest and longest-lasting activists here in New Hampshire. He's still on the line with us here. And, Dave, you'd called in actually to ask me about my experience in court the other day where, a man with a gun came up and demanded that I show my papers to prove that I was who I said I was, which is Ian with FreeKeen.com, the founder of FreeKeen.com, one of the more, I would say, noteworthy blogs as far as New Hampshire blogs go. We're not the number one. We're not number one, but people have heard of us. and I'm registered with the government. Unfortunately, I'm not proud of that or anything like that. It's just something to save steps. So that's the reason that I registered Free Keen as media, and I have to re-register every single year. And thankfully, they don't make it hard. It's just I send them an email. Like, okay, refresh my membership in the list of.
Why do they register media anyway?
Because it's control. They don't want people to just show up with cameras and act like they're free. The media act like they're the media without proving it.
But
somehow.
they're kind of letting anybody do it. You just got to get on the list.
You just have to fill out a government piece of paper that says, I'll agree to your stupid court rules if you put me on this list. And the court rules are, like, basically one of them is if the judge wants to. Now, to be fair, I've never seen a New Hampshire judge require this. I've only seen it happen, I think, in Massachusetts. But they have the ability to say, okay, you need to pool. Oh, you know what? It might have happened in Manchester once. I take it back. But the judge has the ability to say, you have to pool coverage. I'm only going to allow one camera. And so if I'm there, if WMUR is there, if Boston TV station is there, the judge will pick one news entity to actually get the video in the courtroom, will not allow any other cameras in, and then your agreement is you then have to share that footage with any other news entity that wants it.
And hopefully they have a good SD card that day. And
I don't know thankfully I've never had to be involved in that process, but that's one of the rules. And there's other certain things that they want you to agree to, like, oh, you'll set up wherever the judge wants you to set up, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the whole point of it. It's a total control thing. It's a total control measure, because otherwise what they want you to do, if you just show up at a trial. So let's say you want to go to Footloose's trial, which is coming up, I think, on November 4th at the Brentwood District Court for, again, illegal picketing without a permit or whatever in whatever town it was where the governor lives. Tamworth? No, not Tamworth. Where the hell does he live?
Starts with a B, doesn't it?
No. Oh, no.
I forget what it is. Some little town, some crappy little town in New Hampshire. If you want to go to that trial and you want to bring your video camera.
It's not the town's fault that guy lives there.
They're going to say that you've got to go fill out a motion. Well, a motion is asking for permission, because when you file a motion with the court, you're asking the judge to say, grant me permission to exercise this right, which of course then you've converted into a privilege by the act of asking for permission. A free person who actually had a right to record, who actually was the right to, exercising their right to be the media, would be allowed to simply pull out a camera and record, and there would be no question about it. But these goons, it's all about control. So that's why they do this stuff.
Well, you're definitely over the target when they react that way. I mean, and going to their homes, I think, is completely appropriate. Completely appropriate.
Bonnie, my producer, remembered. Newfields is the name of the town where the governor lives. So did that answer all your questions about the situation, Dave?
I think so. Yeah, I think the lobby is the real dangerous part. Remember how Sam there was all these problems with Keene District Court, which eventually resulted in me doing the civil disobedience in the lobby, and I was arrested for filming in the lobby.
Yep.
And then then I went to my own arraignment. I stepped into the restroom real briefly and popped back out, and then I heard, and all I could hear was screaming because Sam Dodson was being arrested. He'd already been seized and taken away from the lobby, and no one could get any video of it. Yep. They were dragging him around. They cut him by dragging him. He had a bracelet or something, and they put the handcuffs over his bracelet. I can't remember the exact details.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I could hear it, but I never saw it because I was in the restroom.
Yeah, if you record video out in these court lobbies, they get real touchy about it and may very well arrest you without warning. Which is why I didn't grab the camera when Footloose was being arrested, because I've been in these courts before and I know how they are, and I'm on bail conditions. So if I get arrested, it violates my bail. So I can't.
Remember when
around.
Adamo was arrested for
like
a stairwell where it was after Pete Eyre had been arrested for a hat.
Yep, in Keene Court.
And somehow Adamo catches it, gets a moment with this judge in the stairwell, and the judge just freaked out. He's like, "Oh my God, a mundane is addressing me without my royal, barrier." Like, oh.
Bailiff, this man is threatening me.
That's exactly what he said. And then they arrested Ademo, held him for, I believe, 10 days before cutting him loose and dropping the charges. They were charging him with a felony of, like, threatening a judge.
And the video was there.
Yes.
Not even close to a threat.
No.
Nothing even
vague,
and it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
But what mattered was that he felt threatened. And I believe he was definitely felt threatened.
I don't think he did.
Not in the way that maybe you and I would feel threatened, like somebody's going to hurt me, but like, oh my God, I'm a member of this protected class.
Yeah, he
and
was
now
definitely in an
I'm coming
unprotected
face to
place.
face with a mundane.
Right. And back in that time, the court was just part of the city hall, and so there was no special garage for the judge. There was no special
secret
back
entrance.
Now they have that. Now there's a secret area and everything. Go ahead, Dave.
I wonder if maybe an appropriate response to this problem in the lobbies is just to make a habit of pretty much all the activists walk into the lobbies, audio recording already or video recording already the minute they're in the lobbies, and you just have a little sticker on your lapel or something like that that says I'm audio taping. And you can do that without necessarily drawing a lot of attention to yourself. You don't necessarily have to be waving a camera around. You can just have an audio recorder in your pocket.
I would love to see some, large civil disobedience event in courts. I know you, Dave, and I have been calling for something like this for the last decade.
Well,
and it's hard to find people willing to put their ass on the line to gain this new ground because that's what it would take. You're right.
I don't really mean I don't mean that there should be. I don't mean there needs to be a lot of people. I just mean just.
But a lot of people is what makes the difference. If it's just one guy recording, they're going to get snapped up and taken to a cage.
Now, this is something I've done by myself before, more or less, or maybe I was the only one doing it while there were other activists there or whatnot. It hasn't ever resulted actually in an arrest, except for that one time where I announced it in advance.
Well, it's possible the guards just didn't know what you were up to. They may not have realized it.
I don't know. It seemed pretty obvious to me that I was holding a camera to my face. But the other option is just having an audio recorder in your pocket and a sign that says you're audio taping. That way, it doesn't seem so confrontational. You just got a little sign on, and you're within the law because you've informed them that you're recording. They can't charge you with wiretapping. So they might try to stop the recording. That means that at least instead of you having to start recording, they have to make you stop recording. You go in there with a home field advantage.
Good suggestions. Hey, Dave, did you hear about the poll that St. Anselm College did, finding that 68% of Granite Staters, and specifically, I believe, voters, now believe that the United States is on the wrong track?
Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah.
It's fantastic news.
Interesting. That's a piece of information that we can add to. Like yesterday, I was calling talk radio at the local station, and I was telling them, they were complaining that I was in favor of independence, and they were complaining that it would never work, and all the usual complaints. So one of the questions I asked was, can you explain why there was 71% approval for it in the union leader poll, at least for the amendment getting on the ballot? And,
hang on, if you can, Dave. We'll keep the conversation going here because I think this is way more important than that poll he's referencing. That was what he's talking about. Was a newspaper, online, completely unscientific online poll. This is an actual scientific poll. We'll talk about the differences here in moments. You can share your thoughts.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. Free Ross myMagicMud.org.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Whether it's the courtroom tyranny that activists have faced for many years or whatever happens to be on your mind. Coming up, we're going to get into this poll. And there's really not a whole lot that's of interest. Mostly it's one of those polls that for the most part is about like, well, who are you going to vote for U.S. Senate? That's boring crap. But they actually did ask people in this poll that St. Anselm College conducted with 1,323 registered New Hampshire voters. So these are people who are already registered voters. So they're not talking to the non-voters. Talking to just New Hampshire voters. 68% of them, people in the Granite State, New Hampshire voters, now believe the nation is on the wrong track. And only 21% said that the nation is heading in the right direction, which means that there was still some number of people that wasn't quite sure,
What's with that 21%? Like, hello? Like, who's looking out their window going, oh, I love this direction. This
hardcore Democrats, hardcore Biden supporters.
Oh, right. We're crushing opponent views. We've got control of the media. The CIA
Fascism.
can do whatever it wants. The Epstein file is no longer a threat to me. I can, I don't know.
Yeah. So you got let's see, was that 11% unknown, or 11% without an opinion, or 11% maybe they're not sure? I don't know what the other option was.
21% with Pfizer stock.
Yeah. So Ridley, you're back on the line here. You're a big fan of New Hampshire Exit. I believe you operate New Hampshire NHExit.com. Is that right? And so, I mean, this is the first you've heard of this particular statistic. Let me break it down a little bit further, and then I just want to get your thoughts on it, because you were talking about calling into a local talk show about independence, and you didn't get to finish the story. But before you continue with your story, they did do a little bit of a demographic breakdown here by voting party. So 95% of Republicans say the nation's heading in the wrong direction in New Hampshire. 74% of undeclared voters, which, just so you know, in New Hampshire elections, it's the undeclared voters that are who you want to pander to if you're a candidate. They're the ones you got to convince, because the undeclared voters are the plurality of the New Hampshire electorate. There's not a majority of Republicans. There's not a majority of Democrats. It's the undeclared voters in New Hampshire. Those are the people who are not registered with either party. They are undeclared. 74% of them said America's going in the wrong direction. And 44% of Democrats split. So 44% saying the U.S. is on the right track, 35% of Democrats saying it is on the wrong track, and 20% of Democrats saying they are not sure. So it's the Democrats that really skewed these numbers down. Without them, we'd have more than 74% saying the country's on the wrong track. So what happened with this radio show you were on? Give us the story, Dave.
Oh, yeah. One of the hosts, he just takes what I say about NH independence and says, oh, okay, great. The other host loses her mind.
Which show?
This is Matt Connaughton's show in Manchester.
Okay, gotcha.
So the co-host was, she brought independence up, not me. She was just trying to use it to prove that I was crazy.
Is this the former Free Stater?
Yes, Jen Coffey.
The one who's turned, she's gone anti-freedom?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Another one?
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah. She had some kind of a run-in with her family, and I guess her family was pro-freedom, and so she decided to throw this baby out with that bathwater.
Her family was pro-freedom, so that made her anti-freedom?
Something like that, yeah.
That's so strange. That is the woman who made it possible for you to carry a switchblade in New Hampshire.
Correct. She was a state rep. She was one of the earlier movers for the Free State Project, and she was a successful state rep, as you pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
She legalized not just switchblades, but they basically ended any prohibition on any kind of
knife
knives.
laws, yeah.
Yeah, in New Hampshire. So she's got a nice little feather under her cap, but apparently she went crazy with power or whatever and decided she was anti-liberty.
Well, I think she's also been in a lot of pain. She's had a lot of physical challenges.
I'm not sure why that would affect somebody's feelings towards freedom. But so she is anti-independence, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
However, she actually, what was interesting in this, it's always an explosion when she and I are talking on the radio, but she agreed as part of that explosion that we actually should be able to vote on it. And so technically,
How generous.
she's in favor of the amendment being on the ballot too. So,
excellent.
That again, that's the real winning issue there, right? And but yeah, I'm going to upload the call to forum.shire Society shortly. Probably in the next couple of days. But if you go to forum.shiresociety.com, there's it's just like a media coverage thread or NH Independence media coverage thread, and there's usually 5 or 6 new things there every week at least.
Yeah, I love it. What do you think about this polling number? Given that if this gets on the ballot, if this can get through the State House and the State Senate, which requires over 60%, so it's a challenge. But if it does get onto the ballot in 2022, it requires a 2/3 majority to pass. And you've got 68% of voting Granite Staters saying America's on the wrong track. What does that mean for the possibility of New Hampshire independence?
I still doubt we can get 2/3. Again, we've thrown the ball to where the player is going to be in 2022, right? We're guessing that the situation is going to deteriorate further between now and when people would be voting.
Seems like a safe guess.
And, so even bearing that in mind, I think we would probably get about 45%, and that's enough to make a huge difference. Again, Scotland was only at 25% support for independence in 2011, and by the time it was voted on, it was 50-50 basically. And then now, if it gets voted on again, I think they'll be independent.
Great points. Ridley, thanks for calling and taking the extra time with us here tonight. Definitely appreciate hearing from you. Check him out at ridleyreport.com.
Gotta love Dave Ridley. He's the one who got me here.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Dave Ridley, for bringing me to New Hampshire. Best move I ever made.
I thought you came here on a motorcycle.
I came here on a motorcycle. Yeah, Dave Ridley did not pick me up or drag me on his Gandhi cart. But
he inspired you.
He totally inspired me. Yep. Well, it was Ridley Report YouTube videos that I was watching when
I like the cool percussion music he uses in his videos. I don't know if he still does that.
I think his brother does that.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, so I love this news here, 68%, and I'm pretty optimistic about it. Now, obviously, when somebody says, I think America's on the wrong track, there's going to be a portion of the 68% that want to try to win it back, right? Like, they want to double down their efforts. They want to elect their guys. They want to put their Republicans back in and, bring it back.
They're just making it worse.
But the reality is it's not going to work.
Nope.
And what's going to happen once this for listeners that don't know, there's been a ballot measure proposed. It's a constitutional amendment, and freedom-loving state reps, 9 of them actually, have signed on to co-sign with this thing, which is one fewer than the maximum. The maximum is 10 for co-signers on a piece of legislation. It doesn't yet have like a legislative number, so it's still waiting that sort of assignment that's coming within the next month or so. And once that happens, we'll be able to say, it's CACR-X and tell you what the actual number of it is. But it's there. It's in the process. It's in the tubes.
Every step gets people talking about it.
Correct.
It gets people asking the question, like, why should New Hampshire be dependent?
And that's the whole point of this first try, is to get that conversation started. Honestly, this should have happened a decade ago, but better late than never.
I mean, what is their number one reason to remain dependent on these these idiots in Washington, D.C., these scumbags, thieves, pedophiles? These are some of the worst human beings that have walked the planet.
Absolutely vile.
I think it's disgusting, and people say, like, I'd like to be ruled by them. Yeah,
I think if you ask people, you'll find different answers. From what I've heard, some people will say the military. Some like righties, right wingers, will say the military.
Well, because New Hampshire will get invaded without the military.
I don't know what they think. I think they think China's going to come over, cross the Pacific, and then come up.
Yeah, I could just see them like bringing in all these cargo container ships and wanting to come into the port and offering goods perhaps at a low cost.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think that's kind of the point of this, is to get these objections to come out. Let's find out what the objections are, because we're going to hear them. Whatever they are, we're going to hear about it. And then we're going to be able to answer those objections. And some of the people who were in favor of staying, or were loyalists, or were staying with America, they might change their minds, or they might get on the fence. And some of the people who are on the fence might decide to jump on the independence train.
What do they really need? Is it just the religious thing? It's just like, I don't want to leave my religion?
Well, I mean, Daddy might punish you if you leave the religion, right? Like the priests may give you a spanking if you.
Well, and I'm sure there are people that are scared. There were ones that are like, "Well, Lincoln settled this question."
That one will come up too.
Like, yep. They'll kill you. Well, it's
a good reason to leave.
Yeah, if that's what's keeping you in this dependency, then
living with a psychopath,
that's a bigger problem.
You got to get out of there, lady, or guy, or whatever. The number is 603-283-6160, but we're going to hear those objections. We're going to be able to answer them, and then maybe we're going to change some minds on this issue. And if 68% of New Hampshire voters are already dissatisfied with things in D.C., that sounds to me like a pretty good starting point.
It's a ton of potential support right
There's
there.
more coming up. Here, it's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force. intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The chief executive of oil giant ExxonMobil has said his company does not spread disinformation regarding climate change. He and other industry leaders are testifying before the U.S. Congress amid accusations their companies misled the public over the role of fossil fuels in global warming. FSN's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The appearance of the 4 oil executives from ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, America and Shell has drawn comparisons to a high-profile hearing in the 1990s with tobacco executives who famously testified that they didn't believe nicotine was addictive. Democrat lawmakers say the industry spent decades denying its products' role in global warming. The oil companies say they hope to use the hearings to highlight recent efforts to address the problem. It comes days before world leaders gather in Glasgow for the UN's COP26 climate change conference, where world leaders will be pressed on their plans to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Kate Fisher, Washington.
Facebook has announced it's changing its corporate name to Meta to reflect what it says will be a growing focus on a range of products for the virtual metaverse. The term metaverse refers to a shared immersive virtual environment that people can access through different devices. Here's Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg.
Our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. From now on, we're going to be metaverse first, not Facebook first. That means that over time, you won't need to use Facebook to use our other services.
The name change comes on the heels of the leaks of internal documents by whistleblower Frances Haugen that have portrayed the company in a negative light on issues ranging from spreading misinformation to the effect of its products on children. A criminal complaint of forcible touching has been filed against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. It's been over 2 months since he resigned in the wake of a sexual harassment scandal. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
The complaint filed at Albany City Court on Thursday relates to an incident at the governor's mansion on December the 7th last year, when Cuomo is accused of forcibly placing his hand under the shirt of the victim. Forcible touching is a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in prison and 3 years of probation. It's been over 2 months since a bombshell report by New York Attorney General Letitia James accused Andrew Cuomo of sexually harassing dozens of women, which eventually led to his resignation. So far, the former governor has not responded to Thursday's complaint, but he has always strongly denied any wrongdoing. Sarah Walton, New York.
Both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ closed at record highs as the strong third-quarter earnings season continues. It comes despite disappointing new figures for U.S. economic growth. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today looking at the extraordinary life of one of the survivors of the US nuclear attack on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. Swano Tsuboi died on Wednesday at the age of 96. On August the 6th, 1945, he was a student heading to class when the US Air Force crew aboard the Enola Gay dropped the atom bomb that devastated the city. FSN's Phoebe Amoroso in our Tokyo bureau tells us more about him.
Tsuboi was just a 20-year-old student when the bomb hit. He was about 1.2 kilometers from ground zero and experienced severe burns. In fact, he said back in a 2016 interview that he tried to run away naked for about 3 hours until he could no longer walk. He went on to work as a junior high school teacher after the war, and then he devoted the rest of his life to campaigning for nuclear disarmament. He traveled to various countries, the US, India, Pakistan, France, all to share his experiences of the bombing.
He also famously met then US President Barack Obama when the American leader made an historic visit to Hiroshima in 2016. Mr. Tsuboi lost part of an ear as a result of the nuclear strike and also contracted a variety of cancers in later life. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida led the national tributes when news of his death was announced. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. Oil industry executives testify before the U.S. Congress amid accusations their companies misled the public over the role of fossil fuels in global warming. Facebook changes its name to Meta to reflect a growing focus on the virtual metaverse. And a criminal complaint of forcible touching has been filed against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. That is the latest. Feature Story News, Ira Spitzer reporting.
Fans of the Tour de France will be disappointed to hear that the race has been put on hold for an indefinite amount of time, as many of the world's top cyclists are currently riding over to the creek to check out cool bugs. Our Chad Williams is live in Bergerac, France.
Thanks, Rachel. Roads that should be full of bikers are empty this afternoon. Right now, the riders were supposed to be here making the climb up the legendary Mont Ventoux, but instead, they rode into the woods after German cyclist Andre Greipel heard that there were a bunch of stick bugs down at the creek, and then everybody wanted to go down there and throw rocks at them. That's when Dmitry Muravyev reportedly skinned his knee but didn't care, and Irish champion Nicholas Roach announced he saw this big weird frog with like an extra arm or something, but it was hard to tell because it hopped away too fast. Race officials have not put a time frame on when the event will pick up again.
People keep saying that this is going to delay the race, but if I know these boys like I think I do, they're going to find some awesome shortcut through someone's backyard.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. Phones are open for you if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. Coming up, Matt, you wanted to talk to us about custodial wallets and why that's a really bad plan. I presume that's what you're going to say, but we'll get into that. Coming up here, it is Ian, Matt, and special guest Jim Babb in the studio with us here tonight.
How exciting, Jim Babb.
It's always exciting.
Jim Babb's
here with you.
Yeah, it's awesome. By the way, he's known for throwing really killer parties at the Porcupine Freedom Festival and Fork Fest, so don't miss that next year. I imagine you're going to be there, right, Jim?
Yeah, and you better be there, too.
I'm planning on it. I've already got tickets, so
all right.
I'm living into the future in which that I will be able to attend.
Good.
So we're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts, though. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. Again, the good news here out of New Hampshire is that 68% of registered voters are saying the nation's going in the wrong direction, which to me sounds like it is ripe for mining for people that might support independence. And let's go to your calls and thoughts. David is on the line. He's in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live, David.
Yeah, you said that Adamo Freeman had been arrested for speaking with a judge in a stairwell. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was back in probably like 2011. You can actually see the footage during Derek J's victimless crime spree. That clip is in there. It was back when the courthouse was actually just part of City Hall, so they didn't have a special parking. I mean, they had a parking area, but it wasn't like, fenced off, so anybody could go back there. The back entrance to the building is open to the public at the time, so the judge would park in the parking garage behind the back entrance of the building at 8 in the morning, and he'd walk in the back door and walk up the stairs just like everybody else. So Ademo and we were aware that this would happen because a lot of us did court outreach at the time, handing out flyers like Know Your Rights kind of stuff. And I was there every other week or whatever, handing out flyers. I've seen that judge come in a million times, so we knew he came in there. Ademo waited with a video camera till the judge walked in and then followed him up the stairwell, asking him questions. That's all he did.
Not questions. He asked him one question. What he said was, "Judge, I'd like to ask you about a hat."
Yeah.
That judge did hate hats. I mean, he really hated hats.
He hated hats.
And then the judge, as soon as he got up to, I think it's the second floor, it's not a very long flight of stairs, go up to the second floor, he opens the door, and there's one of his agents is right there, like opening the door for him, and he says, you know the exact line, Matt, like, this man threatened me.
This man has threatened me.
Yeah,
which is a lie.
Yeah.
On tape.
It's clearly not
a threat. It's just a lie. He's lying when he says that. He's
but the bailiffs do what he
bailiff
says.
To kidnap an innocent person, fabricated a charge on the spot, on camera.
That's right.
And didn't care.
And the reason he didn't care is because he knew there'd be no consequence to him for it. And there wasn't. There was no kind of like judicial panel that...
They lie on camera.
Yeah. He didn't get scolded. He didn't get, his pay docked. He didn't get thrown in jail. He didn't get thrown in jail for an equivalent 10 days or whatever. No, nothing happened to him. Ademo sat in jail for more than a week. They finally dropped the charges, and then they let him out. And that was the end of that story.
Well, they knew they didn't have any case.
Right. So that's what happened, David.
So in that vein, digest this. I did a similar thing in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 2nd Judicial District Court. I was having problems with the judges hearing my cases, problems that were, I believe, violated courthouse procedures and rules, et cetera, if not law. And so I went up the publicly accessible, completely open elevator going to the floor, completely publicly accessible, where the chief judge of the court had his office, and I walked down the hall, publicly accessible, to the judge's office. The door was wide open. The judge was standing there in his robe, either having just come or just about to go to the courtroom. And I introduced myself and explained my concerns, and I left. And then
the judge just walks around the publicly accessible area of the courthouse there?
Well, at that time in that place, excuse me, he did. That was Chief Judge Ted Baca, it should be noted. Ted Baca was chief judge at the time. So here's what happened.
Wow.
About a week later, I received in the mail, served in the mail, this very short order, administrative order, this matter having come before the court sua sponte, meaning the court brought it up themselves. There's no other outside complainers. The court decided to do this all by itself. This court has the inherent authority to control proceedings before it in an orderly fashion. Based upon the inherent authority of the court orders the follows. And this is very short. 1, Mr. David Olson is permitted to file written pleadings in the open cases they list here, or any case Mr. Olson is a party to, and to appear at the court for any hearings in those cases and to file pleadings. Number 2, Mr. Olson shall have no other contact with any personnel of the 2nd Judicial District Court and is specifically prohibited from calling or communicating in any other fashion with any personnel at the 2nd Judicial District Courthouse.
What service?
And 3, for any court-required appearances, Mr. Olson shall identify himself to security personnel immediately upon entering the courthouse, and he shall be escorted by security personnel to the scheduled hearing. If Mr. Olson wishes to file a motion or legal pleading, he shall similarly identify himself and shall be escorted.
You're forced to pay for this service, but yet you aren't allowed to avail yourself of it anytime you want to, for whatever reason you want to.
The last bullet point, number 4, in bold print, any violation of this order is subject to contempt. And could result in severe sanctions up to and including fines and jail time. This order shall have the full force and effect of law. Ted Baca and
Oh, man.
Elizabeth Whitefield.
And he's a judge of the legislature. What is it? Wait, he's making laws.
He made law. You saw it. You heard that correctly. He made law.
And then the governor signed off on that?
Of course, sir.
Okay. All right. That sounds interesting.
Wow.
Well,
just
judges,
because you
judges
said
think
something.
they are the law.
Yeah, just because you said something to this guy in a public hallway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In a very, very polite, in a much more polite manner than I'm speaking to you.
Wow. Yeah, not a surprise at all, David. Thanks for sharing that story with us. That's the system.
I'm glad they're scared of people.
Yeah.
Like they shouldn't. They should be able to. They should feel like I can't walk around in public because everyone hates me. You know, like they should feel that way. They should feel like every normal person they encounter could be the one that it's gonna
do something.
Like somehow try to get back at them for their life of evil deeds.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when I see that judge walking around town. Like, every now and then I'll see him.
I've never seen him in person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was out at let's see, the last time I saw him and spoke to him, because I'm always kind to
just
these
tip
people.
your hat,
even though these people have put my friends and me in behind bars. Try to be as kind as possible, forgiving. I try to practice forgiveness for these folks. But he was at the Isabel's food stand a few years ago, ordering some pho noodle soup before the creation of Pho Keen Gray, the local pho noodle place. The lady that was the part owner used to run a food truck, and he was there. And he and I had a little brief conversation about him being in retirement.
And people still serve him food and stuff in town.
Yeah, without spitting.
Like he's a regular
without
person.
spitting in it. I wouldn't serve him.
Well, we don't know that for certain.
That's true.
Like, I'm just going to imagine that wherever he's going, people are doing horrible things to his food behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is always entertaining to see when you look up the directions to a courthouse on Google, how piss poor the reviews are of every single one of them. Like, it's rare that there's more than a couple of reviews, but the courthouse I was at last week, the one out in Brentwood, it had 2 reviews and it had 1 star on Google. No one has anything nice to say about these places.
Yeah, like they can't even do child trafficking well. Like, it's just nobody likes them.
So, you want to join us here? You can. Coming up here, Matt, you're fired up for some reason about custodial wallets. And we're going to get into that.
Okay.
What inspired this topic?
I ran. How much time do we have before we go to break?
Not much.
All right. So I ran a contest on my Facebook page.
Before they shut you down, you mean?
Yeah, this is the last thing I did before they gave me another 30-day ban. I asked if anybody could guess what my girlfriend's wake-up alarm song was, I would give them $5 worth of Doge.
Someone guessed it?
I got a ton of responses. Nobody really got it, but I ended up giving out some Doge to some people who came close.
Okay.
Sending the Doge and having them receive it was the tricky part, and I want to talk about that.
All right, we'll get into it coming up here in moments. Doge, of course, huge thing. Actually just got passed this week by the Shiba Inu token. Another completely worthless thing, but it's not worthless, I guess. More coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open here. If you want to join in, you can. Ask a question, tell a story, whatever it is you want to share with us, you can do that. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can also join us online. Head over to freetalklive.com and enjoy the features that we have for you there. By the way, I want to say thanks to Intercoin, sponsor here on Free Talk Live. There's going to be some news about Intercoin yet, actually, coming soon, I think this week. I got a phone call from Greg over at Intercoin today, and I just haven't had a chance to really even open the email box. Had to take Coconut to the vet earlier, so it's been a bit of a busy day, but apparently Intercoin's going to get listed on their first exchange. And so we'll tell you more about what that's going to be coming up a little bit later on. But for now, you can go to intercoin.org. And if there's a token that you want to launch or an app you want to build for your community, go to intercoin.org. You can enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. And while you're there, if you want, you can get some of the Intercoin investor tokens for yourself. So head over to intercoin.org. And I guess talking about exchanges kind of gets into, I presume, some of what you want to discuss here, Matt, tonight. You had a contest that you ran on social media. People had to guess what your girlfriend's ringtone was.
Yeah,
or her
Nikki's
alarm clock tone.
got a couple silly kind of ringtones that are, famous songs. And one of them was, I woke up earlier than she did a couple days ago, and I said, oh, she's got the silliest, alarm clocks that go off, and it was Grateful Dead Shakedown Street.
Okay.
I was like, and it's got a good vibe too, so it'll get you out of bed. It's a pretty nice thing to wake up to. And so I said, nobody's going to believe this, so I went to Facebook.
Nobody would believe that, actually, I think. Nobody loves the Grateful
Nobody
Dead.
himself would believe that.
That would get me out of bed so fast to hit that button. Like I would be smacking that button.
It does after a while. But so I decided to go on Facebook, and I said $5 worth of crypto to anybody who can guess what my girlfriend's wake up alarm song is.
Mhm.
And a bunch of people guessed, and she's Nikki Sunshine. So, she got a ton of sunshine and,
Right.
all kinds of responses about songs that have the word sunshine in the title or whatever. But I was really looking for Shakedown Street. But a few people came close with a couple Grateful Dead songs. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna give these guys some crypto. They came close with the Grateful Dead tunes. So
Okay.
I think 4 people came back with Grateful Dead tunes. And 3 out of the 4, it was really, really hard to send them Doge. And
Really?
it should be. It should be easy. And I was just getting invalid address. And I had to go back to them. Hey, this is an invalid public address. This isn't a real wallet. What it was they had all their money. They had all their crypto on like Coinbase and Kraken and stuff.
Oh, no.
So they weren't real wallets. They're custodial wallets. These people didn't realize that having their crypto on a centralized exchange wasn't the same as having their crypto. They literally don't own their own crypto. So I said,
And they were giving you wrong addresses? Because normally an exchange will still give you a legit address to make a
they
deposit
wouldn't let
to.
me send Doge into those addresses. So
So they just weren't even giving you Doge addresses.
they were giving me Doge addresses from their Doge wallets on the exchange, but I
Doesn't
couldn't
make any
send.
sense.
I know I couldn't send Doge into either one. That happened with a Coinbase address and a Kraken address. I think it was a Kraken address, and I can't remember what the third one was. Maybe I think it was another Coinbase address. So yeah, I couldn't. So I had to say, look, you have to. That's called a custodial wallet. It's not a real wallet. You are not in possession of your own money.
That's right.
We don't need banks anymore. Cryptocurrency releases us from having to have banks anymore. It's an obsolete concept. You can be your own bank, download a non-custodial wallet where no one's in custody of your money but you. So I guided them to Edge. Edge is Edge Wallet's a reliable, good wallet. Covers a lot of bases, and they did. And I was able to send them Doge, no problem.
Yeah,
like, super super went right through.
Wow.
So and the 3 of them were just like, wow, I didn't know. And these are libertarians, who've been in crypto for a little while, and I'm like, yeah, this is
basic stuff.
This
here.
is basic. Yeah. So if you're out there in listener land and you have your crypto on an exchange like Coinbase, you don't actually own it.
There's still a lot of new adoption taking place. Like
Yeah.
we think like
Yeah,
people
that's
have
true.
learned this lesson like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like no, people need to be reminded.
Yeah,
of
that's
this,
true. They've
like-
constantly
like
got
all
to
the time. Yeah.
And I don't know what the wallets that are available out there are anymore. I just use
there's always new ones coming
There's
out.
Coinomi and Edge. I just use Edge. That's what I recommend everybody because it's easy to use and it's.
Here's the problem with Edge, though. I found is you have to like register. Like people get the wallet, then they're expected to type in your email and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little bit confusing. Like because I'm trying to tell like no, you don't. It's not connected to your email, but then here it is. And
Well,
once you get over that, Edge is
That's
so easy to
interesting
use.
that's your objection, because to me that's what makes Edge useful for a newbie is that, well, actually they don't require an email, they require a username, and that can be anything you want it to be. So it's a username password login instead of you get 12 words to write down, which is so when you create a crypto wallet, for listeners that don't know, if you're not on Coinbase or something like that, you have to back up your wallet, or else if you lose your phone, then your crypto's gone forever. So you have to have some sort of an off-phone backup system. And typical wallets, you got to write down 12 to 24 words, depending on which wallet it is. And that's a little burdensome. Most people are used to username, password, and so Edge has that familiarity. And somehow it like encrypts your wallet.
It'll email you a recovery seed.
There's
or
options
something.
for recovery, yeah.
like-
But you don't have to do the recovery options if you don't want to. You can just do username and password, and then you're in. And somehow they like encrypt, they like hash up your wallets, and I don't know how they do it. I can't explain how they do it, but
I've tried to, every time I always, get somebody new that's got their wallet, and I always have to tell them, like, now, here are the horror stories, right? There's people that are digging through a landfill today, still trying to find that hard drive.
Yep.
Okay, like,
don't be that guy.
Pay attention, like. And be aware that, okay, you've got how important is it now? It's $10. Okay. So it's not that important. Okay. You're not going to pay attention to it.
Right.
But then it goes 10x, 100x, next thing you know, you've got real money and then you're like, well, where was that? What was that phone? What was it? Like,
Yeah.
don't be that person.
Don't be that guy. Take it seriously.
Yeah, pay attention, especially like if you decide you're going to take it seriously, and before you get any kind of substantial thing, just understand what the backup routine is. Practice doing it. Do disaster recovery. Whatever your wallet is, even a hardware wallet. Practice using your seed words. Practice pretend like, oh, I just lost my Trezor.
Right.
Now what do I do?
Go through the steps.
Yeah, like actually do it a couple times because it gives you the confidence to understand what's happening, and you don't want to experience a problem 10 years from now. Oh, that's my kid's college fund. Oh,
There goes your retirement.
Yeah, like you're being your own bank for good or for bad.
Right, and then the good of that is you are in control and no one can take that away from you. The bad of it is you're in control, and if you don't take it seriously, then you could do something stupid.
Yeah,
like
you got to be responsible for you lose your wallet, you lose your wallet. What happens in real life? You lose your wallet, you lose your wallet. That's what happens.
Right.
But with Edge, I mean, you just have like a username, password, you get in, and you can just log into a new phone if you get a new phone or whatever that's
and
there.
Edge does allow you to also get the 24-word backups for each individual wallet. So if you want to go full on like maximum backup with Edge, you can do that.
Yep.
So it is like a power user wallet, but it's also
and
easy
you can
for
grab
a
your
newbie.
private keys too. You can just get your private keys for each wallet too.
The 24 words for each wallet. There's more coming up here. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The chief executive of oil giant ExxonMobil has said his company does not spread disinformation regarding climate change. He and other industry leaders are testifying before the U.S. Congress amid accusations their companies misled the public over the role of fossil fuels in global warming. FSN's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The appearance of the 4 oil executives from ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, America and Shell has drawn comparisons to a high-profile hearing in the 1990s with tobacco executives who famously testified that they didn't believe nicotine was addictive. Democrat lawmakers say the industry spent decades denying its products' role in global warming. The oil companies say they hope to use the hearings to highlight recent efforts to address the problem. It comes days before world leaders gather in Glasgow for the UN's COP26 climate change conference, where world leaders will be pressed on their plans to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Kate Fisher, Washington.
Facebook has announced it's changing its corporate name to Meta to reflect what it says will be a growing focus on a range of products for the virtual metaverse. The term metaverse refers to a shared immersive virtual environment that people can access through different devices. Here's Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg.
Our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. From now on, we're going to be Metaverse first, not Facebook first. That means that over time, you won't need to use Facebook to use our other services.
The name change comes on the heels of the leaks of internal documents by whistleblower Frances Haugen that have portrayed the company in a negative light on issues ranging from spreading misinformation to the effect of its products on children. A criminal complaint of forcible touching has been filed against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. It's been over 2 months since he resigned in the wake of a sexual harassment scandal. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
The complaint filed at Albany City Court on Thursday relates to an incident at the governor's mansion on December the 7th last year, when Cuomo is accused of forcibly placing his hand under the shirt of the victim. Forcible touching is a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in prison and 3 years of probation. It's been over 2 months since a bombshell report by New York Attorney General Letitia James accused Andrew Cuomo of sexually harassing dozens of women, which eventually led to his resignation. So far, the former governor has not responded to Thursday's complaint, but he has always strongly denied any wrongdoing. Sarah Walton, New York.
Both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq closed at record highs as the strong third-quarter earnings season continues. It comes despite disappointing new figures for U.S. economic growth. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And here in the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Matt,
and Jim.
As we continue here, you can, of course, bring up anything. We've been talking about some of the crypto basics, and one of those things that you need to know is that if you don't have the keys to your coins, they are not your coins. They are in somebody else's custody, and that somebody else could decide to not give it to you if they wanted to. Coinbase, for instance, one of the most popular ways for newbies to get into the world of cryptocurrency. I'll give them credit. It's simple. Right? Like you give them all your financial information, they let you into their system, you give them your bank account info, they take money out of your bank account, and they give you quote-unquote Bitcoin in a wallet on their system. And in theory, if you ask them to withdraw it to a wallet that you control, like you mentioned Edge Wallet, Matt, that's a great wallet. Exodus Wallet's another fine cross-platform wallet, so if you want one for like a laptop or a desktop computer. Sadly, there is no Edge except for mobile, so if you want to go on a actual computer, I like Exodus. That's a nice one. If you want to withdraw to your own wallet, they'll generally let you unless they have a reason not to. Maybe you didn't fill out all their forms correctly. Maybe the government said...
Yeah, they get a call. I mean, their Coinbase has been like, we're the obedient ones. We're ready to snitch.
Yeah, big time.
We're the snitchiest of the snitches. I mean,
they love the government at Coinbase.
Yeah, they're all about like trying to be we're the compliant, the house slave.
That's right.
Yeah,
they're like the big bank of Bitcoin.
Yeah, actually, I remember the third one was actually a Binance hash number. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so Binance and Coinbase are that's basically like the U.S. central bank of crypto and the Chinese central bank of crypto is how I
think Binance had to leave China.
Where are they then?
I don't know. They've been
that was basically their bread and butter, though. Weren't they based in China? From the
China's
beginning?
banned crypto transactions.
So they say.
I understand. I think Binance has been trying to find like a friendly jurisdiction in which to locate, and they've been not having good luck. That's what I've heard, at least.
Maybe New Hampshire.
I doubt it. Not until New Hampshire declares independence from the United States.
Well, we got a little ways to go on there, but that's coming.
But the U.S. definitely not a friendly place for cryptocurrency exchanges to operate. Although that said, there is a bit of interesting news here from the U.S. And since we're talking about crypto, I spotted this one a couple days ago. Cointelegraph reporting that Bitcoin vending machines now coming to your local Walmart. You guys hear about Coinstar?
Well, Coinstar's been doing that for a long time.
They have, yeah. Coinstar, I think it's a long time in the terms of Bitcoin. Maybe it's like 2 years ago or something.
I think up in Lancaster, up in New Hampshire, there's a Shaw's grocery store that's had a Bitcoin vending machine, Coinstar machine for.
So you can dump your coins in and walk away with Bitcoin?
That's what you can't do, which is the weird thing. At least that's what the original. Okay, so 2 years ago, it was in the news that Coinstar, this machine designed to dump your coins into and walk away with cash, had added a Bitcoin purchase option. And that's a pretty big deal because there's a lot of these machines, right? Like they're fairly ubiquitous. And when we were reading the story about it, I was surprised to learn that No, they won't let you use coins to buy Bitcoin. You have to put cash in to buy Bitcoin.
It's probably a federal crime if you do it. If you put a quarter in it and then they give you Bitcoin and then somehow the Treasury comes after you. Or,
I don't know why they chose to do that, but like, how cool would it be if you could actually turn your spare change into the Bitcoin? I don't know why they didn't. I mean, maybe they've changed that now, but according to the story here at Cointelegraph, Walmart is now partnered up with Coinstar and crypto cash exchange CoinMe to install 200 Bitcoin so-called ATMs in their stores across the United States. Although the pilot only includes 200 kiosks, the broader launch plans to eventually see the installation of 8,000 Bitcoin ATMs across the country at Walmart locations.
Wasn't it somehow recently they're arresting people for Bitcoin ATM usage?
You're talking about the Crypto 6?
Yeah. Like, I guess first they have to clear the deck, right? Like, let's just get all these other players out of the way, and then we'll bring in Walmart.
Basically. Yeah, because when they what you're referring to is me and Aria and Nobody and a few of our other friends, 6 of us got arrested. You're wearing the shirt tonight, Jim, so thank you for that. Free the Crypto 6. TheCrypto6.com is a website that supporters set up to put the word out about what happened. But yeah, crypto vending machines were involved in the allegations in that particular case. But we're not Walmart. Walmart's got a lot of attorneys. Walmart's got a lot of money. They are more than willing to jump through whatever governmental hoops are put in front of them.
Yeah.
And so,
I think it was I don't know exactly when it was, but it was very, very close to the time of the raid is when Coinbase went public, too. So, I mean, it looks like they're literally trying to clear the deck, as you said, the deck of small competitors so that they can bring in, the
big corporations,
the big moneyed people.
I mean, that said, I got nothing against somebody putting a Bitcoin ATM. I mean, most people want to jump through all the government hoops because they don't want to have an armed gang crashing through their front door or busting in their windows at 6 a.m. So, can't blame them for that. But that's the reality. Most of these Bitcoin ATM people just ask all the governments, what can I do? What can I do to help you?
Well, it's a dangerous area between Bitcoin and the government and the fiat, this interface. Like if you're all in Bitcoin, you're fine.
You're fine, right.
Right? But anytime you have to interface with the fiat system, they can control that very well. They've got that buttoned down. So Coinbase, use it, but understand that that's just like a bank. It is a bank. And the bank is basically part of the government now. So you're working with the government. You're going to get Bitcoin from them. At least get it out of there as soon as you can and get it somewhere else. And understand that it's now part of the public record. And they're going to be everything you do, that whole $600 thing. I mean,
they're supposedly backing down from that, but they're just going to bring it back around. It's going to come out again in another form.
Coinbase has already been giving out information to the IRS about crypto holders. This is nothing new. Nope. It's part of the agenda. It's clear. Obviously, they have no bigger obstacle than Bitcoin, right? So they're really concerned about people being able to duck. Basically, they're swinging punches, and they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! You're not allowed to duck. We're debasing the currency here."
Yeah, you got to use our money.
Yeah, because if not everybody does it, it doesn't work. This
is the first time in history, really. I mean, where there's been an easy out for people to get away from the ravages of inflation and crypto. Yeah, you can always use gold and silver to some extent, but there's been a lot of controls and a lot of manipulation in those markets.
And it's very difficult to travel. Immigrants showing up on at Ellis Island with their life savings and gold.
You can't do that.
It's just
they won't let you leave the country with more than $10,000 in your pocket or $10,000 worth of gold or whatever. You're not going to get through the airport with a stash of gold in your suitcase.
TSA is well trained to look for gold.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're never going to get it back.
And iPads, and especially for
marijuana,
people that whatever, anything they can pocket, but.
But now you've got Bitcoin, you've got other cryptocurrencies that have a controlled amount. There's never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoins, and they hate that. They hate the fact that they have no control over this, and that you can get in and out of this thing. That's where they're trying to control those choke points, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. They hate privacy. They hate Monero. They really hate Monero because they can at least trace Bitcoin. And they don't know what to do about Monero. They're trying to just convince exchanges to take it offline.
They've had a lot of luck with that, right? It's very difficult to buy and sell Monero on I mean, you can't get it on Coinbase or any of these places, can
on
you?
domestic exchanges, I don't think it exists on. I think Kraken used to have it. I don't know if they still do.
You can get it on local Monero.
Yeah, you can. Now, just keep in mind there's severe risks in using those peer-to-peer platforms. There's a lot of scam artists on there. So, you got to mind your business there. You got to be very, very careful when you're dealing with those folks.
And isn't it mostly feds? And I mean,
there are feds there too. Yeah, you got to watch out. But you know what? To the extent that Walmart is making it easier for people to get their hands on Bitcoin, I still think this is great news. I mean, 8,000 Bitcoin ATMs. All you got to do to get Bitcoin now is go to Walmart. I mean, that's pretty convenient.
I hope it's a good rate.
People are there already. In fact, I noticed that our Walmart here in Keene got a Coinstar unit. So I don't know if all Coinstars are enabled for this yet, or we're one of the 200 test stores. I can't use Bitcoin by my bail conditions, so maybe somebody could go check that. More coming up. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain here. Enough time for you. If you want to join us, the number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about Walmart teaming up with the Coinstar Corporation and going out there and offering people hundreds right now. They're starting with 200 locations of Bitcoin ATMs at Walmart stores. That they're going to look like Coinstar machines, but apparently they're going to have a Bitcoin purchase option. And they're talking about rolling this out to 8,000 locations across the country, which I'm guessing would be every Walmart store. It sounds like that's a lot of stores.
Do it.
So yeah, kudos to them. And they're a little late to the party on this. I mean, they're a big corporation. They move slowly because there are already over 25,000 Bitcoin ATMs, Bitcoin vending machines at select grocery stores and service stations in the United States, according to Coin ATM Radar. So, and that's one of the things that the Shire Free Church really did well here in New Hampshire was we paved the way. The Shire Free Church was the only operator of Bitcoin vending machines in New Hampshire for a few years until finally some other people decided they were going to, get into it. And now, last check, there were over 80 Bitcoin vending machines and or ATMs here in New Hampshire across the state, which
I see them everywhere I go now.
Fantastic. There's at least 4 of them here in Keene, New Hampshire. Well, a little town of 25,000 at max, probably more like 22,000 people, has 4 Bitcoin vending machines.
I saw one in Prince Rupert, British Columbia, a few years ago, like this end of the world kind of port city that you can really only get to by boat. Barely, it's like just like the end of North America. And they've got Bitcoin.
Oof. I'm reading a little bit further into this. This is not good news. So, according to this story here at Cointelegraph.com, customers can use the Bitcoin ATM by inserting banknotes and receiving a paper voucher with a redemption code. To redeem the code, customers need to then set up a CoinMe account and complete a background check. Users cannot, it gets worse. Users cannot withdraw Bitcoin from their account.
That's not even
Bitcoin.
Ownership.
That's fake Bitcoin.
You're buying Bitcoin for somebody else at that point. Like you're buying Bitcoin for Walmart.
They have no indication of plans to offer this functionality in the near future. All right, I take it back. This is not good news. I had thought this was going to be
what do you do with this Bitcoin that they own?
I have no idea.
You can't. Well, so once you've verified your identity, again, they just need to know who everybody is. We just want to know who you are.
You know what they're probably going to do?
You can use the vending machine as long as we know who you are.
The federal government's probably going to release their digital currency, and you'll be able to swap those Bitcoins into that digital currency.
Maybe
down the road.
I think this is just.
I think the government's trying to figure. The government and the banking apparatus is trying to figure out what on earth they're going to do about crypto, and they still don't know. They're just figuring out how to track it a little bit, at least Bitcoin, and they still don't know exactly what to do about it. So they're trying to set up some kind of structure where they can take advantage of it later
and still know who everyone is. Every single person who comes in there and uses that is now on their registry of confirmed Bitcoin holders and will be subject to whatever.
In theory.
Well,
Bitcoin holders in name only because they're not even holding the Bitcoin.
Well, but,
Now
no,
this
but
company
presumably
is.
by the time you've done all your KYC and you've given them a stool sample and everything, then they allow you to transfer it.
No, it's saying you can't.
Not even after
That's
you've
what I'm saying. That's why
and coined me and
yeah,
all
no,
of
that's
that
why
stuff.
I took it back. I take it back. This is terrible.
Because they're not the only ones. PayPal did that too, right?
PayPal also does not allow you to withdraw the Bitcoin. Yeah,
but that's that's a step past the custodial. I was complaining about a custodial wallet. This is a step past that.
Yeah, and it's honestly like, but it borders on fraud, right? Like if you're saying you've bought Bitcoin, well, how do I know you even have the Bitcoin? You're not letting me have it. So how do I know that what you've sold me is actually Bitcoin? There's a number on a screen, but I can't actually control it. I can't collect on that Bitcoin.
Yeah, wasn't it Henry Kissinger who said if it's against the law, we do it immediately. If it's unconstitutional, it takes a little longer. And this could be that exact same kind of psychology that's running this operation.
I think it was just this company, the Coinstar people are like, we want to do Bitcoin, and they're like, run it by the lawyers, and the lawyers are like, okay, can we do this? And they ran it by their government handlers, and they check with everybody, and they said, well, we have to do it this way. Well, that doesn't work. And we have to do it. It's even worse than that, and it's worse than that, and it's worse than that, and we got approval to do this. And it's like it's probably drifted so far from the original version of like, wouldn't it be cool if people could throw their change in there and get Bitcoin?
Yeah,
and you
that
don't even
would've
have to
been cool.
type in your email or anything. You're just like, here's some coins, boop, scan your QR code. Somebody needs that machine.
That would have been innovative. That would have been a really cool thing.
That's probably where they started.
Yep.
And when they figured out, like, well,
no, they just raided these people in New Hampshire. We don't want that to happen.
And they're
terrorism.
probably already, because they're money transmitting and, possibly, who knows, what nefarious people could be using Coinstar to circumvent central banking. Like, they're probably already kind of like in a compliant footing.
Sure,
like
of course they are.
Like really reporting.
Anybody
and
that's
really
dealing with money,
scrutiny.
anybody that deals with the state's currency is under serious scrutiny.
Yeah. So by the time they got it past all the scrutinizers and their legal experts, that this is what it was reduced to.
And here's the crazy thing: is like they accuse people like the Crypto Six, and they would accuse Coinstar of saying, oh, well, you're enabling terrorism, you're enabling money laundering, you're enabling all this crime. And I don't know if I agree with that. Like the Department of Justice supposedly has looked at cryptocurrency and admitted that actually most criminals use cash, right? It's like, why would a criminal want to use Bitcoin? It's traceable. It doesn't make any sense. But there are crimes out there of fraud that happen with Bitcoin, where like some elderly woman or man will, and it doesn't have to be an elderly person, but that does tend to be who gets targeted. They'll fall in love with somebody on the internet. We had one of these guys call our show, and we talked with him for 3 hours about what happened, and he got into detail about the scams that he was caught up in because he thought that this person loved him on the internet, someone he'd never met, never spent any actual physical time with, but fell in love with. And this quote-unquote woman who only just texted him, so it was probably a guy, right? We don't know. This quote-unquote woman who he met on a dating site was only texting him. She got him to buy Bitcoin for this scam artist and send it. But before that, she got him to buy a bunch of gift cards to go to Target. You've seen them. You've walked down the aisles at Target and Walmart and, CVS or whatever, and you've seen those gift card displays where there's like, Applebee's and there's Visa and there's MasterCard. So you buy the prepaid debit cards. The scam artist says, I need to get, $10,000 to get me out of this country or whatever, go to college or whatever the scam is. And the person believes it, and they go down to Target and they get 10 cards because each of them has like a maximum of $100 or whatever the maximum is. They get as many cards as they can, and they give a bunch of cash to the cashier, and they walk out with all these cards. And that cashier just assisted unknowingly in that fraudster committing that fraud. But yet the FBI doesn't go and arrest Target's managers. But that's what Coinstar's worried about. Coinstar's worried about accusations that some old lady's going to show up there under instructions from her internet lover and buy $20,000 worth of Bitcoin, and then they're worried they're going to be held somehow liable for that. That's what their concern is.
Possibly, but I don't think anyone's really worried about the criminals. I mean, certainly not the authority figures. They're not really concerned about that old lady getting.
No, they
scammed.
want control.
They're concerned about people avoiding their inflationary currency,
right?
And
they won't admit that,
and to not being susceptible. I mean, yeah. When do they care about criminals?
No. They don't. That's what I'm saying.
Never.
If they cared about it, they would stop all these people who are getting these gift cards. But Target and Walmart are selling I don't know how many billions of dollars of these things every year, and a good portion, some percentage of those gift cards are being bought by scam victims. And there's no way to stop it.
Well, I heard recently the president office was issued their report being very concerned about cryptocurrencies interfering with their ability to levy sanctions internationally,
like with Cuba or
they're like, well, if because they realize like, oh, we don't really have this locked down like we used to. And they said it out loud. They're like, yeah, we can't dominate the world as much because of Bitcoin now.
I read that and that made me feel so good inside.
Like, hell yeah.
Sanctions are an act of war against people, not
Absolutely.
government.
That's why we have Bitcoin.
It's the people who suffer sanctions the most.
Regular old people.
Out of time tonight. You can join us online. In the meantime, anytime over at freetalklive.com. Check out Jim on Punk Rock Libertarians. Look for them online as well. See you tomorrow night, freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you